転生
What if Naruto was in the Inuyasha universe movie 2? Odyssey of the Half-Demon Princesses and the Maelstrom by Windstorm 16. Disclaimer, I do not own Naruto or any characters. Start. The time has finally come, live once more to-san. Tokatsu-sama, live again. Said Jakatsumaru, son of the Shikyo member Tokatsu. Jakatsumaru was a young man with long black hair tied up in a ponytail, pale skin, red eyes, and two horns emerging from his head which he kept covered with a white cloth over his head. With his attire consisting of wooden sandals, a dark orange kimono, and a pale purple robe over it with a dark orange sash around his waist, along with his folding fan held in his right hand. With Jakatsumaru watching with a smile as his father's body was restored over the skeleton he'd assembled, with organs, muscle, skin and hair growing until Tokatsu was fully revived. The Shikyo member being a large bipedal boar yokai with brown skin, long dark brown hair, horns on either side of his forehead, red eyes, large tusks growing out of his snout, and several scars on his arms and legs. I live once more. Tokatsu declared as a jet of flames shot out of his snout, with Jakatsumaru bowing to his father. Yes, you do too, San. And we have the demon slayers to thank for your revival, all of them sending their men to the slaughter to aid in your revival. And here, I have ensured the recovery of your armor and your Kwandao. Jakatsumaru said while presenting his father his armor and weapon, which Tokatsu took and began getting dressed. You have my eternal gratitude, my son. When the time comes, I shall speak with Korinmaru-sama to ensure you receive a proper reward for your loyalty. Said Tokatsu, thankful for his son's efforts in reviving him and would make sure he was rewarded. Your return is all that I require to San. Though if I may, what shall we do in regards to the quarter demon filth that killed you? Will we hunt her down and take our revenge? Jakatsumaru asked, wanting to know what his father had planned in regards to their revenge against Moroha, only for Tokatsu to growl in anger at the mention of Moroha. That half-breed was not the one who ended my life. No matter what power she possessed, it wasn't enough to stand against me with the red rainbow pearl. Said Tokatsu, surprising Jakatsumaru at hearing this, since everyone believed that Inuyasha was the one who killed his father, only to hear it wasn't true. If she was not your killer, then who was? Questioned Jakatsumaru, wondering who was the one that really killed his father. That I cannot answer. Whoever they are, they struck me from my behind, cutting off my head before I could do anything. But while my true killer may have escaped, the half-breed dared to take credit for my death and took my rainbow pearl. So, I shall take the quarter demon filth's head in return. Tokatsu said, planning to take revenge against Moroha for the ill-gained credit she took for his death and then stealing his rainbow pearl. Of course too, San, the army I have assembled is yours to command as you see fit. Jakatsumaru said with a bow, having also assembled an army of undead skeletons in preparation for his father's revenge once he was revived. Though their attention turned to the sound of flapping wings as a large owl fly into the temple. With the owl having dark brown feathers, a beige stomach, chest, and around its eyes, and 4 red eyes showing it was a yokai. What are you doing here, Yatsum? Tokatsu demanded after finishing putting on his armor and now held his Kwandao, while Yatsum bowed his head. Forgive my sudden appearance, Tokatsu-sama, but Kayuki-sama sent me after she'd heard of your son's plan to revive you and sensing your Yoki signature return. She wished me to inform you that the quarter demon Moroha has been spotted in the demon slayer's village. With her being accompanied by another demon slayer and 2 strangers, all of them having emerged from a portal at the Tree of Ages. It would seem she is close with the demon slayer and these strangers as well. Explained Yatsum, much to the father-son duo's pleasure at not only learning Moroha's location, but also that she had friends they can use to further hurt her. Excellent. You've done well in delivering us this information, Yatsum. Jakatsumaru, let's go. We have filth to exterminate. Said Tokatsu, eager at the chance for revenge and to recover his rainbow pearl. With Jakatsumaru nodding to his father before they, along with their undead army, set out for the Demon Slayer village. Demon Slayer village. Meanwhile, Naruto and the girls had been taken to Kaide's hut, where they began filling her and the Demon Slayers in on Moroha's and Setsuna's trip to the modern era. Along with introducing Naruto and Tawa to them, being surprised at learning the Silverette was Setsuna's twin sister and the Uzumaki being descended from a yokai, a daiokai if Moroha was right. If you're descended from a daiokai, I'd say it could be a QB level kitsune with your appearance. Kohaku stated, given with Naruto's whiskers and personality, it's likely he's descended from a kitsune. No, he's not. I would be able to recognize his yoki as being that of a kitsune's from all the time Shippo has been here, and I can say that it's not even close to resembling a kitsune's signature. Said Kaide, being able to tell that Naruto wasn't descended from a kitsune due to all the times that Shippo has visited her village. You can tell what kind of yokai someone is just from their yoki. Naruto asked in surprise, not thinking that could be done. Only for the yokai I'm familiar with. And while I do sense yoki coming from you, it's none from any yokai I recognize. And from what I'm sensing, it's steadily growing stronger as well. Kaide replied, surprising the Uzumaki and the girls. Now that you mention it, I have felt that it's gotten stronger than back in the modern era. Even against Root Head, my power felt stronger than before. Said Naruto, feeling his yoki did feel stronger. Yeah, now that it's mentioned, your yoki definitely feels stronger along with your scent. Moroha said while sniffing Naruto, seeing he's starting to smell more like a yokai as well. She's right. I sense your power has grown since our arrival. Stated Setsuna while looking Naruto over, only to notice it wasn't just his yoki that's changed, with Tawa seeing this as well. You also look different now too. Your teeth are sharper and your pupils are slits. Tawa said upon seeing that Naruto's canines have elongated and his pupils were now slitted, surprising the whiskered blonde as he touched one of his teeth to see Tawa was right, they were sharper. It would seem your trip through the rainbow corridor has made it so you have transcended from being just a demon descendant to a quarter demon. Probably from the abundance of yoki in this era, with all the yokai that are present. Said Kaide, much to the group's shock that just coming to the feudal era has turned him into a quarter demon. Though Moroha soon grinned brightly at this, overjoyed that she's no longer the only quarter demon in the group, leading her to grab Naruto's arm and hold it against her chest. Hear that, Whiskers, we're the same now. Which means we'll need to do a lot more training together so you can balance your yoki and Raryoku. Even better that it's just more time we'll have to hang out, alone. Moroha said with a wink and a sly smile, making Naruto blush at her words and closeness while Tawa was annoyed at the sight, even Setsuna to a lesser extent. Wait, why am I annoyed? Thought Setsuna, blinking in confusion while wondering why she felt annoyed with how close Moroha was to Naruto and then the idea of them being alone together. Sit girl. Tawa exclaimed as she grabbed Moroha by her ear, getting a yelp from her cousin as she pulled her away from Naruto and forced her to sit down. With the sight making Kaide and Kohaku chuckle, remembering the same thing happening with Kagome and Inuyasha. Only without Moroha hitting the ground face first due to being bound by mystical beads. Though Moroha then felt something biting her neck, making her smack whatever it was, only to blink when she saw who it was that had been biting her neck. Grandpa Myoga. Moroha said at seeing the flea yokai, who quickly recovered from being hit. Moroha-sama. Oh, it's so good to see you again, even better to taste your blood once again as well. Ah, it's wonderful to see you both again as well, Tawa-sama, Setsuna-sama. Said Myoga bowing to the twins, much to their confusion. You know us? Tawa asked, confused as to who this was and how he knew her and Setsuna. Of course, I served your grandfather Toga-sama until his death before going on to serve Moroha-sama's father, Inuyasha, your uncle. Myoga revealed, surprising them at hearing this before Myoga looked at Naruto, sensing the yoki within him. And who are you? Questioned Myoga while jumping over to Naruto's shoulder. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, a friend of Moroha, Tawa, and Setsuna. Nice to meet you. Naruto said while watching the flea yokai who looked at him intently, before jumping back to Moroha. Forgive me, but I couldn't help but sense something familiar about you. Your energy feels like one I've sensed before, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Myoga said thoughtfully, sensing Naruto's yoki was familiar, but he couldn't remember where he sensed it before. Right, by the way Kaide, what's the sacred tree's problem with Sesshomaru and some guy called Korinmaru? Naruto asked, much to the shock of the priestess, the demon slayers, and Myoga. You spoke with the sacred tree. Said Kaide in shock that they actually spoke to the sacred tree. Yes, we did. It appeared to us using the form of a woman named Kikyo. She actually looked a lot like some of the pictures we've seen of Kagome. Replied Tawa, shocking them further. That's because Kagome is Kikyo's reincarnation, as well as Inuyasha's former lover. Until Inuyasha tried stealing the Shakan jewel decades ago, leading to Kikyo pinning him to the Tree of Ages with one of her sacred arrows. Leaving him trapped for 50 years until Kagome arrived and freed him. Kohaku revealed, shocking the group at this, especially Moroha to learn more about her parents. Kikyo was also my sister. Kaide said, feeling miffed at the Tree of Ages taking on her late sister's appearance. What exactly did the Tree of Ages say about Sesshomaru-sama and Korinmaru Dono? Questioned Myoga, wondering what the Tree of Ages said about them. It wanted us to hunt down the two and kill them, claiming that they were working together in a plot to distort time and plunge the world into a dark age, and that by killing one would reveal the other. Setsuna replied, much to their shock and disbelief. We refused, which is when it sent us to Root Head. And after thinking about it, the damn tree probably sent us there knowing we'd kill Root Head and leave us stuck here. Added Naruto, thinking the Tree of Ages intended to have them kill Root Head just so they wouldn't have a way back to the modern era, as a way to force them to go after Sesshomaru and Korinmaru. No matter what the Tree of Ages claims, I can't believe that either Sesshomaru-sama or Korinmaru Dono are planning something like this. Myoga said, with Kohaku nodding in agreement. Myoga is right. I traveled with Sesshomaru when I was young, he looked after me when he had no reason to, and that sounds nothing like him at all. Even if he is working with this Korinmaru, it has to be for a good reason. Added Kohaku, knowing that despite how he acts, Sesshomaru wasn't the kind of person that'd do something like that and everything he did always had a purpose behind it. No matter what's happening, we don't really have a lot to go off of or what they're really doing. All we have is what the sacred tree told us. Tawa stated with Naruto, Moroha and Setsuna nodding in agreement. Yeah, and even then it barely told us anything, just enough that it'd make us go after Sesshomaru and Korinmaru. Added Moroha, knowing with what the Tree of Ages told them, it'd make anyone else go after Sesshomaru and Korinmaru to stop their plans. If that's the case, then it likely was trying to manipulate us with lies and half-truths to give us just enough information to make us hunt them down. There's a chance the tree knows something else, something that'd result in us having to confront Sesshomaru and Korinmaru, whether we wanted to or not. Said Setsuna, going over everything they knew, which wasn't much, and figured the tree was withholding some information. Meaning we should be prepared, just in case the tree turns out to be our enemy and does something in retaliation. Naruto concluded, with the girls nodding in agreement. With Kaide, Kohaku, and Myoga also agreeing that they should be prepared just in case, but at the same time they didn't like the idea that the sacred tree could turn out to be their enemy. They could only hope that it didn't come to that and they could figure out what was going on. Though suddenly everyone felt the ground start shaking before they heard the sound of screaming, making them all immediately rush outside. Only to be shocked to see the village being attacked by Tokatsu, Jakatsumaru and their undead army, with Moroha being the most shocked to see the former. You're alive, Moroha said, shocked to see Tokatsu was alive despite how he should be dead. Yes, I am half-breed. Thanks to my son, I have returned, and it's time for you to pay for what you've done. Said Tokatsu while aiming his Kwandao at the quarter demon, with Tawa and Setsuna looking at her dryly. What did you do? The twins asked in a dry, deadpan tone, neither being surprised that someone was after Moroha in revenge for something, with Moroha scratching the back of her head sheepishly. Hey, funny story really. I may have taken credit for killing Tokatsu when someone else did and cashed in his body, along with taking his rainbow pearl. Replied Moroha, having seen a chance to bolster her reputation for taking out a Shikyo and no one else came forward to claim the kill, so she figured they wouldn't care if she took the credit. Yes, I'm aware of the bounty of my head, the one part you should have taken. Since it not only would have prevented my resurrection, but also the head is always worth more than the body. Not that I would expect a worthless half-breed to understand such a thing. Tokatsu said mockingly. Really? If that's the case, then I'll get the chance to really kill you this time and get even more money. Moroha said excitedly at the chance to earn a bigger bounty. You won't get the chance half-breed, the only thing any of you will do is have your bones added to our growing army. Attack, said Jakatsumaru as he had the skeletons begin attacking the villagers. Demon Slayer, protect the villagers and take them down. Kohaku shouted, grabbing his Kusarigama while Hisui grabbed his Harikatsu. Karara, take care of Kaide-sama. Said Hisui, with Karara nodding before she grew larger and let Kaide climb onto her back, the priestess having also gotten her bow and arrows. I'm getting too old for this. Kaide muttered as Karara flew into the sky, giving her a better view as she began firing sacred arrows at the skeleton army. Take care of the humans, but the half-breeds belong to us. Ordered Tokatsu, wanting him and Jakatsumaru to deal with the Hanyos themselves. with Tokatsu then swinging his Kwandao, shocking the group when what looked like glowing cracks formed in midair at the point of impact. With the cracks spreading through the air before unleashing powerful shockwaves that began devastating the village. The group quickly jumped back while drawing their weapons. Moroha, what exactly was that and what else can this guy do? Naruto asked warily at Tokatsu's ability. That's his quake manipulation. Tokatsu can generate vibrations and shockwaves through any medium he wants, even through the air. He can also breathe fire and is pretty strong, replied Moroha before quickly swinging her sword when several bones shot towards them from Jakatsumaru. And it seems his son can manipulate bones. Scourge of Swallows, Setsuna said, swinging her naginata through the air unleashing a barrage of green energy swallows at Tokatsu and Jakatsumaru. Pathetic, said Tokatsu, releasing a blast of flames from his mouth that incinerated the swallows before raising his Kwandao when Tawa jumped over the flames and swung her energy blade at him. Blades of blood, said Moroha, digging her claws into her hand before swinging them at Tokatsu, unleashing several red crescent-shaped blades at him, with the boar yokai grunting as the blades cut into his side. This giving Tawa the chance to flip over Tokatsu, slamming her feet into his back and launching herself away from him. The Silverette then swinging her sword at him, releasing an energy wave at the yokai, which Tokatsu stopped by swinging his Kwandao triggering more shockwaves that disrupted it. Jakatsumaru was about to unleash another wave of bones at the two Hanyos, only to be forced to jump back to avoid getting hit by Naruto. The Uzumaki swing his Bakken at the yokai who proved to be surprisingly agile and fast as he dodged all of his strikes. Until Jakatsumaru summoned several bones that locked around Naruto's Bakken, leaving him unable to move it. Give up half-breed, filth like you couldn't hope to stand against pure-blooded yokai. Taunted Jakatsumaru before summoned a bone spear to drive into Naruto's chest, only to be surprised when he dropped to the ground and kicked the spear out of his hands. Tell it to someone who cares, spirit gun, said Naruto before firing a blast of blue and white Raryoku at Jakatsumaru, who hissed in pain before jumping back not expecting the whiskered blonde to be able to use Raryoku. Only to find himself sent crashing back into the ground by Setsuna's cyclone burst, the demon slayer having jumped into the air over Jakatsumaru to hit him from above. Scourge of Swallows, Setsuna said, swinging her naginata again, releasing another barrage of swallows at Jakatsumaru. Getsuga Tensho, said Naruto as he swung his Bakken at Jakatsumaru, sending a blue and white energy wave at him. The sight of the two attacks coming at him made Jakatsumaru's eyes widen at the sight before he quickly formed a shield of bones around him, blocking the attacks. Only to grunt in pain when they managed to break through his barrier and hit him, though he managed to avoid taking the full damage of the attacks. With this getting Tokatsu's attention, angering him at the sight of his son being overwhelmed. Worthless half-breeds, shouted Tokatsu, swinging his Kwandao at Naruto and Setsuna while releasing more shockwaves through the air, forcing them to jump back to avoid getting hit. Before the Shikyo member turned back to Tawa and Moroha, blocking a strike from Moroha and spinning his Kwandao to strike her across the head with the handle. Only to then block a strike from Tawa, with the Hanyo backflipping away, kicking Tokatsu in his snout as she did so, stunning the boar yokai for a moment. Crimson Dragon Wave, Moroha said, swinging her sword at Tokatsu while releasing a Crimson Energy Dragon at him, only for him to shoot jets of flames from his snout at the dragon causing it to disperse. You will suffer endless torment. Tokatsu yelled, swinging his Kwandao right at the ground, sending powerful vibrations through it causing an earthquake. The sudden shaking knocking Tawa and Moroha off balance, giving Tokatsu the chance to get in close and thrust the end of his Kwandao at them. Creating more cracks in the air and sending shockwaves right through their bodies, making both girls grunt in pain as they were thrown back. Though managed to recover in time to avoid getting hit by another jet of flames from the Shikyo member. Okay, let's see how you like this. Heavenly Arrow Barrage, said Moroha, grabbing her bow and knocking an arrow which she fired into the air at Tokatsu, who swung his Kwandao above him releasing another shockwave at the sacred arrows before they could reach him. Seeing her chance, Tawa charged Tokatsu and swung her blade at him, managing to cut through his armor and into his body a little. Only to grunt in pain when Tokatsu slammed his hand into her head, sending her flying through the air until she crashed into the ground. Heavenly Arrow Barrage, Moroha said, firing another barrage of sacred arrows at Tokatsu to distract him from going after Tawa, giving the quarter demon the chance to go over and help her cousin up. Back with Naruto and Setsuna, the two were now having some trouble as Jakatsumaru was now taking them more seriously. The yokai keeping his distance while surrounded by dozens of floating bones to protect himself, along with directing them at the two Hanyo. Then being forced to jump back when he sent several bones underground, causing bone spikes to shoot up underneath them. Cyclone burst! Shouted Setsuna, spinning her naginata around creating a vortex of wind which she directed at Jakatsumaru, who jumped back to avoid the attack and creating a platform of bones for him to stand on in the air. Demon gun. Naruto said firing a red and black energy blast at Jakatsumaru, only for a wall of bones to rise up and block the shot. With Jakatsumaru then firing several finger bones at the two at high speed, forcing Naruto and Setsuna to jump around to avoid getting hit. Knowing with the speed they're going, they'd punch right through their bodies. This is pointless. We can't get close enough to hit him and our attacks can't reach him with all those bones. Setsuna said in annoyance that they can't get in close enough to finish him off. I know, but there has to be a way we can get in close. Said Naruto as he tried thinking of a way they can get close enough to finish Jakatsumaru off before his eyes widened as he got an idea. Remember that sparring session we all had, where me and Tawa beat you in Moroha? Naruto said, making the demon slayer look at him in annoyance. You didn't, retorted Setsuna, only to stop and realize what he meant, making her smirk slightly. It seems there actually is a brain in that empty head of yours. Setsuna stated, with the Uzumaki rolling his eyes. Just be ready, said Naruto before quickly running towards Jakatsumaru, while dodging the bones he was launching at him, gritting his teeth when a few managed to hit him the closer he got. Once he was close enough, Naruto jumped into the air and swung his Bakken, unleashing the Yoki version of his Getsuga Tensho with Jakatsumaru immediately raising a wall of bones to block the attack. You half-breed have clearly run out of tricks of your wasting time with the same attacks. Save yourselves some pain and just die. Jakatsumaru said wickedly as he had the bones merge into multiple spikes to launch right at Naruto. Only for his eyes to widen in shock when he saw that Setsuna had jumped into the air as well behind Naruto, jumping off his shoulder to go even higher and get behind him. Scourge of swallows. Setsuna shouted swinging her naginata and unleashing a barrage of swallows at Jakatsumaru, who quickly acted and had the bones immediately move behind him to block the swallows. And here's something new asshole. Bala. Said Naruto, charging Raryoku into his fist before thrusting it forward at the now defenseless Jakatsumaru, unleashing a blue and white blast right at him. The yokai only having a moment to look at the attack with wide eyes, before crying out as it slammed right into him. Sending Jakatsumaru flying off his platform and right towards Setsuna, who narrowed her eyes before holding her naginata at the ready. It's over. Setsuna said, swinging her naginata right at Jakatsumaru's neck, slicing right through his neck as his body and head fell to the ground. With the impact of his decapitated head and body getting the attention of Tawa, Moroha and Tokatsu, only for the boar yokai's eyes to widen at the sight of his son's body. Jakatsumaru! Shouted Tokatsu at seeing his son was dead before feeling pure rage and anger flow through him. Letting out a loud rage-filled shout, Tokatsu slammed his Kwandao into the ground and unleashing powerful shockwaves. Knocking the four Hanyo off balance from the shaking, with Naruto and Setsuna crying out when the Shikyo member rushed them before cutting them both with his Kwandao's blade. Setsuna. Naruto. Tawa said in worry for her sister and friend Crush, as she and Moroha were about to help them only to cry out as well when Tokatsu immediately unleashed vibrations at them. The two Hanyo feeling like their bodies were going to explode before finding themselves slammed into the ground by Tokatsu slamming his Kwandao's handle into them. You'll suffer for taking my son from me. Shouted Tokatsu before grabbing Moroha by her throat and threw into the air, slamming the end of his Kwandao into her chest, unleashing point-blank shockwaves at her, making the Ravenet gag before gasping in pain as she crashed into a tree. With the impact causing her compact to fly out of her robe and the red rainbow pearl to roll out, which Tokatsu noticed as he retrieved his rainbow pearl. Now you'll witness my full power and you will burn. Tokatsu yelled while slamming the rainbow pearl into his Kwandao, imbuing it into his weapon as it was surrounded by a red aura. Swinging his Kwandao at Moroha, Tokatsu unleashed a massive wave of flames at the quarter demon. Only for them to be blown away by Setsuna's cyclone burst, panting as the cut across her side slowly healed. Leave her alone. Getsuga Tensho! Shouted Naruto, swinging his Bakken at Tokatsu while unleashing the Raryoku version of the attack, with the yokai swinging his Kwandao again creating more cracks in the air. But rather than release shockwaves, the cracks instead unleashed a large fiery explosion throwing Naruto back from the blast while burning his clothes and incinerating the Bakken. The Uzumaki grunting in pain as he crashed into the ground, before quickly getting out of the way as Tokatsu released more flames at him. Naruto. Scourge of Swallows. Setsuna exclaimed in worry before swinging her naginata and sending a barrage of energy swallows at Tokatsu, who merely swung his Quan Dao again, triggering another fiery shockwave that destroyed the swallows. With Setsuna sliding under the flames and swung her naginata at Tokatsu, who blocked the strike with his Quan Dao. The Ravenette then stabbed her naginata into the ground, pole vaulted and slamming her feet into the boar yokai's face, sending him stumbling back. Tawa took the chance to get in close, swinging her sword to unleash an energy wave at Tokatsu from behind. Finish it now. Scourge of Swallows. Setsuna yelled while releasing another barrage of swallows at Tokatsu. Alright. Tawa said, swinging her sword and unleashing a large energy blast that took the form of a blue dragon. The two attacks rushed towards Tokatsu, but before either could hit him, the Shikyo gave a shout and threw his fists at the attacks, unleashing multiple cracks in the air that soon exploded into large fiery shockwaves that caused the attacks to disperse. With Tawa and Setsuna not having any time to get out of the way before they were thrown back by the explosions. You will all die screaming, yelled Tokatsu as he went to stab his Quan Dao into the ground and release a massive explosion to reduce them all to ashes, only to grunt as he was hit from behind by a crimson dragon wave. Hey Tokatsu. Ready to die a second time? Moroha said with a smirk as she recovered her compact and got some rouge from it before proceeding to apply it to her lower lip. With this rouge, I become Inuyasha, the destroyer of lands. Tremble before the bloodthirsty dawn. Bear witness to your end if you so dare, said Moroha as she was surrounded by a red demonic aura while her eyes turned gold and lavender markings on the corners. Iron Reaver Soul Stealer. Moroha shouted, channeling her yoki to her claws and unleashing several crescent-shaped energy blades at Tokatsu. Tokatsu yelled as he swung his Quan Dao, creating another fiery shockwave that stopped the attack before raising it up as Moroha jumped over the fire and swung her sword at him. With the quarter demon spinning and slamming her foot into his head, only to grunt in pain when he grabbed her by the ankle and slammed her into the ground. Die half-breed, said Tokatsu, stabbing his Quan Dao down at Moroha, who managed to grab the blade while gritting her teeth as it cut into her hands. Blades of blood, said Moroha, swinging one of her hands at Tokatsu while releasing several red crescent-shaped blades at him, pushing him back and giving her the chance to jump away. Crimson Dragon Wave, yelled Moroha while swinging her sword at the boar yokai, sending a red energy dragon at him, only for Tokatsu to create more shockwaves that dispersed the attack. With him then swinging his Quan Dao, unleashing a large wave of flames at Moroha, who cut through them with her sword. Only for her eyes to widen when Tokatsu jumped at her through the flames, smashing the end of his Quan Dao into her while triggering another fiery shockwave that launched her back. The quarter demon gritting her teeth at the pain, thankful her robe of the fire rat at least kept her from being incinerated. Though it didn't protect her from feeling the effect of the shockwave as she grunted after crashing into the ground. Are you alright, Moroha? Tawa asked as she, Naruto and Setsuna had recovered from the attacks, with the Silverette helping her cousin up. Why yeah, I'm good, but I won't be able to stay like this much longer, replied Moroha, knowing she could only stay as Inuyasha for 60 seconds. I don't suppose you have any more bright ideas? Setsuna asked while glancing at Naruto. Just one. Setsuna attacks first from the front and stuns him, then me and Tawa go in from the sides to get him to leave himself open, while Moroha goes in and hopefully finishes him off, Naruto said, making the girls look at him for a moment at his plan. Screw it, let's give it a try, said Setsuna, knowing they didn't have any other options, before rushing at Tokatsu while jumping into the air to avoid a wave of flames he launched at her. Slamming her foot into his head, Setsuna managed to cut him across the face with her naginata before kicking off him again when he tried grabbing her. Scourge of Swallows, Setsuna said, sending another barrage of energy swallows at Tokatsu, who shouted as he swung his Quan Dao, creating a fiery shockwave that dispersed the attack. Cyclone Burst, said Setsuna as she quickly began spinning her naginata, creating a vortex that stopped the explosion from reaching her and instead empowered her attack as it crashed right into Tokatsu. The flame-empowered vortex making Tokatsu grunt in pain as he went skidding back, only to then have to block Naruto's and Tawa's strikes from his sides. With the Silverette flipping in the air and feeling Naruto grab her leg, spinning her around to behind Tokatsu to cut him across the back. Spirit Gun, Naruto said while firing a blue and white blast right into Tokatsu's face, making him cry out in pain at the Raryoku. before he and Tawa found themselves thrown back by the yokai, creating more shockwaves through the air. But managed to recover with Naruto unleashing his demon gun while Tawa unleashed her Azura Dragon Wave. The two attacks crashing into Tokatsu's sides and bringing him down to his knees, only being kept up thanks to his Quan Dao. This ends now. Tokatsu shouted, stabbing his Quan Dao into the ground, causing it to begin shaking before it split open as jets of flames and shockwaves shot out of the ground around them. The group quickly moves around to avoid getting hit by the attacks, with Setsuna jumping into the air and began spinning her naginata. Cyclone burst. Setsuna said while creating a large vortex that began sucking up all of the flames, which she then directed right towards Tokatsu, who tried dispersing it with another shockwave. Bala! Yelled Naruto while firing a Raryoku version of his bala that smashed right into Tokatsu's head, dazing him long enough for Setsuna's flame-empowered cyclone burst to crash into him, burning the boar yokai. With Tawa rushing Tokatsu before he could recover, giving a shout as she swung her energy sword at his Quan Dao when he raised it block her attack. Her sword's blade growing bigger as she channeled more yoki into it, allowing her slice right through the handle, much to Tokatsu's shock. You're finished. Moroha said, jumping over Tawa and swinging her blade at Tokatsu. Crimson Dragon Wave, said Moroha, firing the attack at point-blank range, causing it to blast right through Tokatsu's body, not even giving him any time to scream in pain. Yes, we won, Naruto said, smiling at seeing they managed to take down Tokatsu and Jakatsumaru. Why yeah, we really did it, said Tawa uneasily, still trying to get used to the fact they will have to kill other yokai here, especially with one being a kid. Indeed, and it looks like the Demon Slayers and Kaide-sama have dealt with their army. Setsuna said while looking to see the Demon Slayers were dealing with the remaining skeletons, pleased at their success of taking down one of the Shikyo. Woohoo! Now I can really say I did kill that damn pig. Even better are the bounties I'll be getting for both their heads. And can't forget my rainbow pearl either, said Moroha smiling eagerly as she grabbed Tokatsu's and Jakatsumaru's heads, knowing she'll be that much closer to clearing her debt with these, along with taking back her red pearl from Tokatsu's Quan Dao. Only to soon collapse from the exhaustion of both the fight and using her Benayasha state, only to be caught by Naruto before she hit the ground. Much to the annoyance of Tawa and Setsuna before being confused on why they were feeling annoyed, when Naruto was just being nice and helping Moroha after she used up all her energy. Though unknown to everyone, the battle had been watched by Yatsum, having been ordered by Kayuki to observe the battle to see if Tokatsu would be able to handle the Hanyos or not. Seeing both him and his son are now dead, Yatsum flew off to report to his mistress. With the owl yokai soon arriving at the mountain cave she'd taken to using as her hideout, finding Kayuki there in her human form. In her human form, Kayuki has pale skin and purple stripes underneath her green eyes, forearms and shins, long wavy purple hair with part of it tied back, green eyes, pointed ears, a pair of small horns on her forehead, red fingernails and toenails, and a pair of white feathered wings on her back. Her attire consisted of a sleeveless red kimono with orange animal-like stripes, a purple hatajuban undershirt, a purple beaded necklace with a bell at the center, jagged gray soda shoulder pads with golden rings round the end and matching kusazuri waist pads, a golden bracelet on her left wrist, a purple obi sash, and a large white sash down the center of her legs with black jagged stripes at the end. With her also being barefoot as well. What do you have to report, Yatsum? Kayuki asked, wanting to know if Tokatsu dealt with the half-breed or ended up getting himself killed again. Kayuki-sama, Tokatsu-sama and his son have both been slain by the half-breeds, it would seem they are much stronger than we anticipated. Even when he briefly reclaimed his rainbow pearl, they still succeeded in defeating Tokatsu-sama. Replied Yatsum, making the tiger yokai hum in thought. I see, I shall report to Korinmaru-sama of their deaths. Kayuki said before she transformed into her true form, with it being a large white saber-toothed cat with multiple horns on her legs, paws, heads, and a pair of wings. Flying into the air, Kayuki headed towards the sea where Korinmaru's ship was, with it not taking long for her to arrive and land on the ship, returning to her human form as she did so. Entering the ship, Kayuki knelt down once she arrived at Korinmaru's chambers and found him on his throne. Korinmaru-sama, it is your loyal servant, Kayuki. I've come to report that Tokatsu and his son Jakatsumaru have been killed, by Benayasha, Sesshomaru's daughters, and another half-breed, one that came with them through a portal. Even when empowered by the red rainbow pearl he recovered from Benayasha, he still fell to them. Said Kayuki, getting Korinmaru's interest. Sesshomaru's daughters, you say? Korinmaru said, interested in hearing that they're now in the feudal era, and are strong enough to kill two of his subordinates. For one that serves under me, Tokatsu must have been a formidable warrior, it'd be quite the accomplishment for anyone to succeed in killing them. These Hanyo must be truly strong if they succeeded in doing that, even with the power of a rainbow pearl. Stated Korinmaru, feeling some pride in Tawa and Naruto, impressed that his students have already grown strong enough to defeat one of his Shikyo. With your permission, I would like the privilege of taking care of this matter. Kayuki said, wanting to deal with these Hanyo herself before they could interfere in their plans. Leave them, it doesn't suit my taste to deal with half-breeds. Korinmaru said, while knowing if Kayuki did go after them, then she'd likely die as well. Yes, Korinmaru-sama. Though I can't help but express concern, that if these half-breeds are in fact targeting your subordinates they could be planning to come after you as well. It may be best to deal with them now, before that happens. Said Kayuki, with the Beast King merely nodding. Your concerns are noted, Kayuki. You're dismissed now. Said Korinmaru while waving his hand, with Kayuki bowing her head before exiting the room. Yes, enjoy your time while you can, Korinmaru. But once I have the rainbow pearls, not even you will be able to stand against me and there will be a new ruler. Thought Kayuki, knowing when the time was right and she had enough power, she'll overthrow Korinmaru once and for all. For now, she just needed to be patient and bide her time. A day has passed since Tokatsu's and Jakatsumaru's attack on the village, with the remaining demon slayers having worked on clearing away the skeletons, repairing the damage, and burying the dead. Naruto and the girls had also helped where they could, before Moroha planned to go off to collect the bounties on Tokatsu and Jakatsumaru plus the bounties for Mistress Three Eyes and the Hidoken. Eager to see how much she'll be able to get for all four yokai, with Naruto offering to go with her. Something that annoyed Tawa and Setsuna at the idea of him and Moroha being alone, though the Silverette was thankful when Naruto promised to ask Jubei about the dream butterfly. Though before Naruto and Moroha left, the Uzumaki had been given some spare battle armor by the demon slayers due to his regular clothes having been damaged during the fight. Along with some spare clothes that he brought with him. With Naruto now wearing dark blue sandals, black pants with a blue weapons pouch strapped to his right leg, a black jacket with it being burnt orange around the bottom and up the middle, black fingerless gloves, and grayish-brown arm and leg guards strapped to his arms and legs. Along with having two swords strapped to his back, also provided by the demon slayers. With one sword strapped vertically over his right shoulder and the second horizontally across his lower back. The whiskered blonde had been pleased at his new outfit, even if he's still annoyed and upset at the destruction of his Bakken. Along with having noticed Tawa, Setsuna and Moroha looking at him after seeing his new outfit. Making Tawa look away with a faint blush whenever she saw him staring, with Setsuna being more subtle about while Moroha happily leered at her friend crush. It wasn't long before Naruto and Moroha arrived at Jubei's shop, Shikabania, finding the corpse dealer inside with Naruto looking him over. Seeing Jubei as a middle-aged man with tanned skin, brown hair that balding at the top and slicked back, a matching mustache and beard, along with a distinct scar running through his right eyebrow and eye. While his attire consisted of a loose-fitting pale green kimono top, a tan vest with brown crosses on the front over it, gray pants and a gray sash holding up a black apron. Yo, Mr. Jubei. Guess who's back and with plenty of new bounties? Moroha said the moment she and Naruto walked in, grinning happily at how much money she'll be able to get from her bounties. Moroha, back again I see. And just where did you disappear to these past few days, anyway? And who's this supposed to be? Questioned Jubei upon seeing the Shihanyo before looking at Naruto, frowning slightly as he could feel he's not completely human. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, a friend of Moroha's. And I'm also here to say I'm taking on half of her debt. Naruto said, causing Jubei to blink in shock at the sudden request. Naruto had originally planned to even take on 3/4 of the debt, only for Moroha to object to that, not wanting her friend crush to be stuck paying the majority. With it taking some time before they agreed to split it evenly between them. You want to take on half of Moroha's debt, why? Do you even know how much she owes? Jubei asked, not expecting someone to willingly offer to take on such a large debt. Yeah, Moroha told me how much and I'm still taking half of it. She's my friend and I'm not going to let her be stuck collecting bounties and barely getting anything for them. If I'm able to help lessen the burden and pay off her debt faster, then I'm going to do it. Replied Naruto, surprising the corpse dealer again before he nodded in response. Alright, have it your way, you now owe half of Moroha's debt. Now, let's see what you've brought me this time. Jubei said, motioning Moroha to show him her latest bounties. Here are these ones. First. Mistress Three Eyes and a Hitoken. Said Moroha, presenting the Hitoken and Three Eyes skull first, wanting to see what she gets for them first before showing the bigger bounties. Grabbing the Hitoken's body and Mistress Three Eyes' skull, Jubei looked them over for a few moments to see if they're genuine, nodding once he saw they were real. For the Hitoken and Mistress Three Eyes, you get 10 mon. Said Jubei, grabbing 10 mon and setting them down, much to Moroha's disbelief and Naruto's annoyance. 10 mon. You want me to starve death? Moroha said, not believing she's only getting that much. Those guys weren't easy to kill, they should be worth more than just 10 mon. She even brought the head for Mistress Three Eyes, and isn't the head supposed to be worth more? Naruto added, refusing to have Moroha only get that much. It is, since it's easier to tell a yokai by their head as opposed to just their body. But you're under the impression that just because a yokai is strong they'll have high bounties, that's not the case. Since I'm guessing you're new to this kind of business, here's how it goes. Yokai are separated into different demon classes depending on their strength level. The lowest is E-class yokai. They aren't very strong or smart, being just above an average human. Explained Jubei as Naruto listened closely along with Moroha, the rabbinette being interested to hear this as well. Next you have D-class yokai. They aren't really powerful or smart, aside from a few exceptions. Their strength and endurance can be considered superhuman compared to an average human, but to most other yokai they're incredibly weak. Jubei continued. Then there's C-class yokai, the ones considered most common and have the most average strength. You're likely to come across C-class yokai out in the world more often than others. They're capable of being stronger and faster than even the strongest normal humans. But while they're much stronger than E-class and D-class yokai, they're not even close to the higher ranked ones. Jubei said. B-class yokai are when their power really starts getting dangerous. These ones are very difficult to deal with and far exceed C-class yokai. But even with how powerful they are, they still aren't anything compared to the ones above them. Said Jubei, making Naruto frown at just how strong yokai can become. How much stronger can yokai even be? Naruto asked, while also wondering where Tokatsu and Jakatsumaru ranked. Put it this way, the next is A-class yokai and they're by far some of the most dangerous, even B-class ones don't stand a chance against them. An entire army would be lucky to take down just one A-class yokai, even luckier if someone actually survives. And they're used as foot soldiers by the yokai above them. Jubei revealed much Naruto's and Moroha's shock. And the yokai above them are S-class, these are some of the rarest yokai around, you'd be hard-pressed to even find 20 of them in the entire world. Even a low-ranked S-class yokai can still devastate a large area with little effort. It's also exceedingly rare for a yokai to reach this rank, but not unheard of. Explained Jubei, making the two Shihanyo gulp at just how powerful some yokai can become. Are Sesshomaru and Korinmaru S-class? Moroha asked, with Jubei looking at her at those names before scoffing. Not even close. Those two are part of a class even higher, the upper S-class, being on a completely different level than even S-class yokai. They possess power great enough it's considered godlike by most, they're strong enough they can't even unleash their full power without it beginning to affect reality itself. They're also among the rarest yokai around, and so far there are only two here now that qualify for upper S-class, and that's Sesshomaru and Korinmaru. Jubei replied, much to Naruto's and Moroha's shock at the revelation. Their normal brash and confident personalities shattering at the new information, feeling shaken at learning just how powerful Korinmaru and Sesshomaru are. Anyway, the next part is the bounty ranking system, which determines the worth of yokai depending on their class. The lowest is C rank that involves yokai that are D class to C class, making them worth a decent amount but nothing really special. Then there's B rank which covers B class yokai, which earn much more than C rank bounties. A rank is next for A class yokai, which are the best bounties anyone can hope to get, if they're lucky to survive. And finally there are the S rank bounties for S class and upper S class yokai, ones that hardly anyone goes after unless they're extremely confident or stupid, but they also offer the greatest rewards for those succeed in life. Except for upper S class, which are simply considered suicide bounties as anyone foolish enough to go after them is lucky if they die quickly. Explained Jubei before holding up the Hitoken and Mistress Three Eyes skull. These are C rank bounties, so you don't get much for them, even less since most of it goes to your debts. Jubei said, with Moroha then quickly taking out Tokatsu's and Jakatsumaru's heads. What about these two? I have Tokatsu's head this time after he was revived and his son too, who is pretty strong. They've got to be worth a lot. Moroha said, hoping that the father-son yokai were higher ranks, both for a better bounty and to restore her confidence. Grabbing the heads and looking them over to make sure they're genuine, once he was sure they were he looked at the Shihanyos. C-rank bounties for C-class yokai, if it weren't for the fact a very special client has upped the bounty to be worth a bag of gold. Stated Jubei, much to their disbelief. Are you serious? There's no way they were C-class, Tokatsu nearly killed us and our friends, while Jakatsumaru was strong enough to revive him and an army of skeletons. They have to be B-class at most. Naruto said, refusing to believe they were considered that low-ranked. Sorry to disappoint, but that's truth. Tokatsu might have been strong for you too, but to higher class yokai, he wouldn't even be worth a single glance. The same goes for the rest of Shikyo, all of them are only high C-class yokai. Said Jubei, with Naruto and Moroha looking at him with wide eyes. The who? Moroha asked, making Jubei look at them in disbelief before shaking his head. The Shikyo, the group Tokatsu was part of, they're 4 yokai that are Kimaru's subordinates. Jubei revealed, which really left Naruto and Moroha shaken. Given if Tokatsu was only high C class along with the rest of the Shikyo, and he was part of the group, then they'll likely end up having to deal with them too either out of revenge for their comrade or paranoia of being targeted next. And if they manage to survive fighting the other 3, then Kimaru himself will likely come after them. Something that left them nervous and worried given the power he possesses. Damn you, Trikio. Naruto mentally cursed the Tree of Ages at how she planned to send Tawa, Setsuna and Moroha on a suicide mission, except now they may not have a choice but to play her game if they wanted to survive. But I suppose since you did bring me Tokatsu's head this time, you get the payment for the actual bounty. Jubei said, grabbing a small bag before opening it, delighting Moroha when she saw it was gold. Awesome. Moroha exclaimed in excitement that she's finally getting a real bounty. That bag of silver I gave you before for the body you brought before was just a deposit until you brought the head, now that you have the deposits cleared. Said Jubei, much to the female Shihanyo's relief at not having to pay a deposit in addition to her debt. Awesome. Then I'm that much closer to clearing my debt. Moroha cheered with a grin, taking the gold while giving half to Naruto since he did help give her the chance to kill Tokatsu, along with helping clear her debt. Here, put it towards my half of the debt. Said Naruto, giving the gold back to Jubei who nodded in response. And one other thing, do you know anything about the dream butterfly? Naruto asked, wondering if he had any information about the dream butterfly, given all his other knowledge about yokai. The dream butterfly. I don't, not really. Why are you asking? Questioned Jubei, not really knowing anything about that particular creature. Our friend had her dreams and memories stolen by it. We're trying to find it so she can be able to sleep again and regain her memories. Replied Naruto, making the corpse dealer nod in response. Dream butterfly, you said. I'll keep an eye out if I hear anything. Jubei said with Naruto nodding in thanks, knowing any information they can get will be useful and Tawa will be grateful for any help they get. So, Mr. Jubei, got any other bounties that'll pay me more? Moroha asked, hoping for better bounties than what she got for the Hitoken, 3 Eyes and Jakatsumaru. I may have just the one for you two and the other half demon princesses. There've been a lot of travelers going missing in the northern mountains. Maybe the 4 of you will be able to find out why. Said Jubei, wanting to know what's been making travelers disappear and have it stopped. Now that's more like it. You can count on us. Come on Naruto, let's go tell Tawa and Setsu we've got a new job. Moroha said, grabbing Naruto's hand and pulling him out of the shop, eager to complete another bounty. Later. I ride my bike to go somewhere. From here to there, I ride my bike. Go anywhere, anytime, just keep on pedaling and pedaling. Moroha sang as she stood in the basket of the bike, listening to music with her new music player she got in the modern era. While behind her Naruto was pedaling the bike, slowly growing more annoyed with how he couldn't see anything in front of him. And behind the Uzumaki were Tawa and Setsuna, with the Silverette also growing annoyed at their cousin's antics. With Setsuna simply resigning herself to the coming headache as she tried to block out the noise. Hey, Moroha! Naruto shouted after finally having enough, making the bounty hunter pull out one of her headphones. Huh, what is it? Moroha asked, not understanding the problem she was causing. Why don't you either get off and run or sit with Tawa and Setsuna? Because I can't see anything with you in front of me. said Naruto, only for his eyes to widen when Moroha grinned slyly and pushed her butt into his face. Oh really? You're complaining about getting the best view you could want. Why would you want to see anything but my butt? 'Cause I remember you couldn't take your eyes off of it, before. Said Moroha, much to Naruto's embarrassment at being reminded of when she was naked. That was different. You were naked before, now you're just being annoying. Naruto retorted, which only made Moroha's smile grow. Oh, does that mean you'd prefer me being naked? I bet you'd love that. You already got to see my naked butt, but you never got the chance to feel it. How about I undress now, letting you enjoy the view even more and I'll be the lookout. That seems like a fair trade, right Naruto? Moroha said, slyly while winking at the Uzumaki. With Naruto's face turning bright red at the idea of Moroha stripping naked right now, even more so that she'd press her naked butt against his face. Should I take your silence as a yes? I'm starting to like the idea too, feeling nothing but the wind against my skin, unless you'd have something else that could be pressed against me. Questioned Moroha with a teasing smirk, loving the sight of Naruto's entire face being red. Don't even think about it when we're moving like this. Tawa said, glaring at her cousin in annoyance and jealousy. Does that mean I should do it when we aren't moving? What do you think, Naruto? Do you want me naked now or are you fine waiting? Moroha asked, smirking at the whiskered blonde and the twins. You're nothing but a shameless deviant. Said Setsuna, feeling her own annoyance and jealousy at Moroha's teasing and flirting. He still hasn't answered yet. Said Moroha in a sing-song tone, annoying the twins even further. I'm JJJ just, gonna focus on pedaling. Naruto stuttered, doing his best to look past Moroha, which only made her smirk in victory while Tawa's and Setsuna's jealousy grew. Why did we talk Naruto into pedaling? Thought Tawa, now wishing they didn't peer pressure Naruto into being the one to pedal. Come on Naruto, tell us. I won't be upset if you want to see me naked again, just ask whenever you want. As long as you don't mind returning the favor, it'd only be fair I get to see you too. Moroha said, pushing her butt in his face again, while Naruto's eyes widened at her words. Moroha, I swear. Tawa growled lowly, feeling tempted to kick the Shihanyo off the bike. Watch out! Yelled Setsuna when she looked and saw a little girl step onto the path. Her shout made the other three stop and look, only for their eyes to widen in panic at the sight of the little girl, making Naruto lose control of the bike to avoid hitting her. Before they screamed at seeing they were now heading towards a tree. With none of them having time to get off the bike as it crashed, sending them flying through the air screaming. Looks like Team Rocket's blasting off again. Naruto said, unable to help himself, before they all crashed into the ground. Much to the girls' shock and disbelief. Later, after recovering from their unexpected flight through the air, the group went to make sure the little girl was alright and learn why she's out in the wilderness alone. Only for them to grow upset at learning just why she was out here alone, before giving her some Pocky to eat. With the girl eagerly devouring them all in seconds, doing the same when Moroha gave her a bag of chips. Wow, look at her go. Said Moroha, not expecting her to eat so fast. Can you blame her? I mean, she said her parents completely ignored her just to take care of some cats. In the modern era, that's called neglect. Tawa said with a frown, before looking at Naruto. The whiskered blonde being particularly upset after learning what happened, feeling angry at how the girl's parents were ignoring her just for some damn cats. They shouldn't even be called parents. Muttered Naruto, hating what was happening, given his own parents died protecting him yet this girl's parents seemed to have forgotten they even have a daughter at all. Looking at him sadly, Tawa reached out and grabbed his hand, squeezing it comfortingly. Making the Uzumaki look at her, before nodding in thanks as he relaxed a little. Well, in this era, you just steal whatever's around. Moroha stated before looking at the girl. Hey, heard anything about people going missing near an old temple in a mountain pass? Questioned Moroha, wanting to know if the girls heard anything. Huh, the girl said in confusion. Nobody comes down from the mountain pass and whoever goes up there doesn't come back. That's why we came out here to look into it. Moroha clarified, only for the girl to still look confused. I don't know about that, but my village is at the foot of a mountain pass. Said the girl, wondering if that's the pass they're looking for. We should check it out since it's on the way. Tawa stated, wanting to find out just why the girl's parents were ignoring her, if something was going on in the village. Maybe it could even be connected to the disappearing travelers. added Naruto, making the girls look at him before nodding that it could be a possibility. Later. So this is your village? Tawa asked once they had arrived at the girls' village, not seeing anything out of the ordinary when they first saw it. Only for them to be surprised when they saw dozens of cats on the roads, the roofs of the buildings and being held by all the villagers. Look at all these cats. The feudal era has cat villages, huh? It reminds me of cat islands. And the villagers, every one of them seems to own a cat. Oh, wow. The people around here sure love cats, don't they? Said Tawa in disbelief, not expecting there to be this many cats here. It's my mama. The girl said, smiling happily when she saw her mother and ran up to her. My sweet kitty. Cooed the woman, only looking at the cat in her arms without even glancing at her daughter. Mama, I'm home, said the girl, holding her arms up to her mother, only to feel disheartened when her mother looked away with a huff. Well, why don't we get you something to eat? The woman said to the cat, much to the girl's sadness. Mama. The girl muttered before following after her mother to try and get her attention. With the sight disgusting Naruto and Tawa, not believing the woman barely even looked at her daughter, all her attention focused on the cat. Poor kid. What a bad mom, muttered Tawa, having never thought she'd see something like that. Yeah, Moroha said, not liking the sight either, but also feeling something was really wrong here. This isn't natural. Naruto stated with a frown, knowing some people might really like cats, even to an obsessive degree, but this seemed to be taking it too far. It's just as I expected. Stated Setsuna, now understanding what's going on here. Before the group heard a cat's meow, making them look down to see a cat nuzzling against Tawa's leg, with the silverette suddenly smiling at the sight. Ah, you have to admit, cats are total cutie pies. Tawa cooed as she knelt down and began petting the cat, much to the confusion of Moroha and Setsuna at her sudden change in personality, while Naruto narrowed his eyes at the sight. Cutie pies. Moroha and Setsuna asked at the same time, not expecting her to change her mind about the cats so suddenly. Tawa, that thing isn't a normal cat. Said Naruto, knowing Tawa wouldn't change like that so quickly after what they just saw. Look at this face. Said Tawa in a baby tone, only to let out a shout with Naruto pulling her back when the cat suddenly hissed at her. You, idiot. Said Moroha while slamming her foot into the cat, sending it flying through the air before it hit the ground, much to Tawa's shock at her action. How could you kick a cat like that? Tawa demanded, wanting to know why the Shihanyo did that. Tawa. That's no cat, at least it's not a normal one. Naruto said, making the silverette look at him in confusion. He's right, that thing is no cat. Seriously, can't you smell it or is your nose just a bump on your face? Questioned Moroha, having thought Tawa would be able to smell the scent of yokai. Yes, this village reeks of yokai. Setsuna added while holding her naginata at the ready, with Moroha drawing her sword. Though I'm curious of how you noticed, when Tawa didn't. Said Setsuna, glancing at the whiskered blonde. Tora. Naruto stated with a scowl, making Tawa and Setsuna immediately nod in acceptance. That makes sense. Tawa said, having helped Naruto catch Tora before as well, knowing that cat was no different than a demon. The group then tensed as all the cats looked at them with red eyes, hissing angrily before charging at the four of them. I guess there's no helping it then. Said Tawa, drawing her sword as the energy blade emerged, just as the cats jumped at them. It's nothing personal. Setsuna stated while swinging her naginata, sending several of the cats flying back. Yes it is. Bala. Said Naruto, thrusting his fists forward, releasing blasts of Raryoku that smashed straight through the cats. You're all gonna be lunch for my Kurakaramaru. Got it. Moroha said with a smirk, slashing multiple cats as she swung her blade through the air. Tawa gave a shout as she sent the remaining cats flying back away from them, only for the cats to soon recover and charge them all again. Screw it, let's get this over with. Moroha said, holding her sword up, not wanting to waste time fighting a bunch of demon cats. Crimson Dragon Wave. Said Moroha as she brought her sword down, unleashing a crimson energy dragon that blasted straight through all the cats, launching them all through the air. The four stood ready as the remaining cats looked at them before they all took off running down the mountain pass, making the group sheathe their weapons. I still kinda feel bad. Cats are so cute. Tawa said, feeling a little guilty at attacking the cats, even if they're yokai. And if one of those cats happens to be Tora's ancestor. Preferably one of the now dead ones. Said Naruto, making the silverette pause for a moment. We need to deal with the rest to be sure. Tawa stated, knowing they couldn't miss the opportunity to deal with Tora for good. Agreed, we can't lose this chance, said Setsuna, narrowing her eyes at the cat yokai, hoping one of them was Tora's ancestor and they'll never have to deal with it again. Hey, what are you guys talking about? Who's Tora supposed to be? Demanded Moroha, annoyed at being left out of the loop. Be thankful you never had to meet that hell spawn. Tora's worse than any yokai and I refuse to believe it's just a regular cat. Naruto said, with the bounty hunter being confused by this only to begin snickering. Wait, are you saying that Tora is a normal house cat from the modern era? That's hilarious. Moroha said as she began laughing, much to the annoyance of the others. That thing is no normal cat. It had to be descended from a yokai. No normal animal would act like it did, stated Setsuna, with Tawa nodding in agreement. It almost bit my finger off, one time. We're lucky it never ripped anything off with its claws. Tawa added, still remembering how violent and evil Tora could be. This only made Moroha laugh harder, finding it funny they would have so much trouble chasing after a house cat. Before their attention turned to the villagers when they saw them all getting up, seeming like they were coming out of a trance. Mama! Mama! You gotta wake up! Mama! Cried the girl as she tried shaking her mother awake, with the woman soon waking up. What the, you're back. Where have you been? The woman said when she saw her daughter, not remembering everything that happened. Mama, you're okay, said the girl, smiling happily that her mother was back to normal. Now I get it. The villagers were acting strangely because they were being controlled by those Bakeneko. Tawa said, glad that they were able to help free the villagers, only to look down at how she's the only one who couldn't tell something was wrong. I couldn't tell before. The smell of yokai, said Tawa, disappointed herself for not noticing anything wrong before. You need to develop your senses. Even Naruto knew they weren't normal. Setsuna stated, pleased at least one of them had good senses. Only because I've learned never to trust a cat, especially ones that seem too friendly, it wasn't because I could smell them. Me and Tawa did grow up in the modern era, remember, which isn't exactly filled with yokai to smell. Said Naruto, having not really smelled the scent of yokai either. Yeah, I've never really smelled that before. Tawa said, sniffing the air to try and get a better idea of what yokai smelled like. Of course you haven't, but I suggest you both get used to it soon. Otherwise you shouldn't plan on living much longer. Said Moroha with a smirk, making the whiskered blonde and Silverette nod in response, before they noticed something come out of Moroha's cloak. Boing! Boing! Myoga said, getting the group's attention. Huh. Grandpa's Myoga. When'd you get here? Moroha asked, not expecting to see the flea yokai with them. Moroha-sama, surely you know I would follow you to the very ends of the earth. Said Myoga as if it was obvious he would follow her, only for the Shihanyo to look at him dryly. Yeah, right. Said Moroha, believing it's more likely he's hoping to drink more of her blood if she uses her rouge. If we can get back to the task at hand. I believe the Bakeneko ran towards the mountain pass. Setsuna said, getting the others' attention as they looked towards the mountain pass. Oh. Looks like the travelers going missing near the old temple must have been turned into cat chow, huh? Seems like an easy win to me. Moroha stated, thinking it'll be easy to handle the remaining Bakeneko. I doubt it'll be that easy, Moroha. Those Bakeneko we fought weren't even a challenge, if anything they were probably just servants to a stronger one. Said Naruto, doubting that the mission would be that simple. He's right, Moroha-sama. Bakeneko tend to get stronger as the years go by, but none of the ones you've encountered were very formidable. Myoga added, getting Naruto's attention. They get stronger the older they get. Then I wonder how strong any leader they have could be. Naruto said with a smirk. Then let's go find whoever's in charge and see for ourselves. Time to hunt some evil kitties. Let's go. Declared Moroha as she and Setsuna began walking. With Naruto and Tawa about to follow them, only to be stopped by the little girl. Excuse me, said the girl, getting the duo's attention. Huh, what is it? Tawa asked, smiling at the girl, wondering if there's something else she needed help with. Well, I just wanna say thanks a lot. The girl said, smiling gratefully at them, surprising Naruto and Tawa before they returned the smile. We're glad we could help free your village and your family. Said Naruto, patting her on the head. Yeah, it was no trouble at all. Okay, bye-bye. Said Tawa, waving at the girl as she and Naruto went to catch up to Setsuna and Moroha. Not knowing Setsuna glanced back at them for a moment before closing her eyes, the corners of her mouth twitching up for a moment. Bye. Be safe. The girl said, waving at them as the group made their way up the mountain pass. Later. It took some time for the group to reach the old temple in the mountains, with the sun having begun setting by the time they reached it. Mr. Jubei wasn't kidding, it sure is an old temple. Tawa stated while taking in the sight of the temple. This whole place looks suspicious. Said Moroha, finding a temple built here in the middle of nowhere suspicious. But no yoki so far. They must be hiding out, somewhere. Setsuna said, not sensing or smelling anything off about their surroundings. Well, if there's one place one wouldn't expect yokai to be hiding, then it'd definitely be an old, abandoned temple. Said Naruto, doubting anyone would expect yokai to use a temple as a hiding spot. Do you have business at this temple? Someone asked, making the group tense slightly as the door slid open, only to relax when they saw it was just a monk. Oh, it's just a monk. Moroha said, feeling he's a regular human and couldn't smell any yokai scent on him, while Tawa looked at him in shock and amazement. That's Julian. Said Tawa in amazement, with Moroha and Setsuna looking at her in stunned confusion. Oh yippee. Naruto said in annoyance at Tawa's excitement. Who's Julian? Setsuna and Moroha asked, not understanding her sudden declaration or the strange name. Good evening, ladies, gentlemen. You can call me Juan. Introduced Juan, which only annoyed the Uzumaki further at the similar sounding name. I don't believe it. He looks exactly like May's favorite idol, Julian. Tawa said quickly, not thinking they'd meet the ancestor of a celebrity. Doll? Questioned Setsuna in confusion. There she goes, talking about weird Tokyo stuff again. Moroha muttered while shaking her head at the weird modern stuff, making the silverette look between them in annoyance that they didn't understand how important this was. No. I'm telling you, he looks just like him. If this were the modern era, he'd totally be a celebrity. Said Tawa, looking at Juan in amazement, not seeing the look of growing annoyance on Naruto's face. And what's that supposed to mean? Naruto demanded, his annoyance growing at the star-struck expression Tawa had. Well, just look at him. He has to be Julian's ancestor with his looks. Tawa replied, making Naruto's eye twitch as he growled lowly. Excuse me. Juan asked in confusion. Okay, we get it. Now give it a rest. Moroha said in annoyance at all the modern era nonsense. Hey, Mr. Monk, you seen any Bakeneko around here? Questioned Moroha, wanting to see if he knew anything. Bakeneko. Said Juan, surprised at the sudden question. Oh well, guess he doesn't know anything. We'll check back never. Said Naruto, turning to leave, only for Setsuna to grab his arm. We're tracking some Bakeneko that came this way. We believe they're responsible for the disappearance of several travelers that have come through here. We're hoping you might have seen something. Setsuna explained, much to Juan's surprise. I see. So there are Bakeneko in the mountain. I must admit this is the first I've heard of it, I'm afraid. Please, come inside, if there are Bakeneko here, then it should be safe within the temple. Said Juan, motioning them to come inside. Thank you, that's very kind of you. And you have nothing to worry about, if any Bakeneko appear we'll keep you safe. Tawa said, smiling at the monk, annoying Naruto further. Debatable. Muttered Naruto as he reluctantly followed the girls into the temple. Have you seen anything strange? Questioned Setsuna as he began showing them around the temple. Like any travelers passing by that suddenly disappear. Moroha said, figuring travelers must have stopped by the temple or at least been close enough for Juan to see something. I have offered many travelers shelter for the night in the temple, but nothing out of the ordinary. Juan replied, with Naruto simply narrowing his eyes at the monk. And they all leave in the morning. With nothing happening to them. Naruto said, looking at him suspiciously. Yes, all travelers are welcomed here for as long as they need. Most usually only stay a single night before leaving. Said Juan. And the ones that stay longer. Did they eventually leave or does something else happen to them? Questioned Naruto, making Juan blink in confusion, before the Uzumaki grunted when Tawa punched his shoulder. Sorry about him, he can be pretty paranoid sometimes. Thank you for your time and answering our questions. Tawa said while giving Naruto a look before smiling at Juan again. Of course. But it is getting late, the four of you are welcome to stay until morning if you would like. It might be wise, the mountain pass can be quite dangerous after dark. Juan offered. Sure, we'll take you up on that. Said Moroha while winking at her cousins and friend Crush. Later. Do you think the Bakeneko might be hiding somewhere in the mountain? Tawa asked once they'd been guided to their room and left alone. No. They're here. said Setsuna, much to Tawa's surprise and worry. What? Here, said Tawa, worried that the yokai were here in the temple. Obviously. The whole temple smells like yokai. Moroha said, both of them having smelled the strong scent of yokai the moment they entered the temple. You mean Julian is one, too? Tawa asked, worried he was a yokai. I'll take him out then, said Naruto in annoyance, feeling too eager at the chance to kill Juan. Not him. That monk smells 100% human through and through. You really need to learn to smell yokai, Tawa, or you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. Replied Moroha, much to Tawa's relief and Naruto's annoyance. And stop calling him Julian. Moroha added, annoyed that Tawa kept calling him Julian, before she was surprised when the Silverette put a headphone in her ear. What's this music? Questioned Moroha, trying to understand anything being said. If it sounds like a high-pitched shrieking monkey, then it's the wannabe idol. Said Naruto, grunting when Tawa smacked him on the head. Come on. Julian's songs are really great. Tawa said, with Moroha listening to it for a few moments before quickly taking the headphone out. Wow, this guy really sucks. Stated Moroha, much to Tawa's disbelief and Naruto's enjoyment. See, Moroha actually knows what's good music. Naruto said, making Tawa look at him annoyance. How would you know? You didn't even get through half of one of Julian's songs before and have never even tried listening to another one since. And Moroha barely knows anything about music from the modern era. Retorted Tawa, only for the Uzumaki to shrug in response. I know that an actual shrieking monkey would sound better than him. Besides, Moroha clearly has good taste and is already a better singer too, with how she was singing earlier. Said Naruto, with the Silverette narrowing her eyes at him while Moroha smirked slyly. Oh, still thinking about early. Does that mean just my singing or did you like having my butt in your face you can't stop thinking about it? Moroha asked teasingly. Depends, is your offer still open? I just ask whenever I want. Naruto replied, much to Tawa's and Setsuna's shock at his response, along with shocking Moroha herself before she smirked at him again. My offer. And why don't you remind me what that offer was, Whiskers? Said Moroha, thinking he's trying to turn the tables on her. I ask when I want and you give me another show like in the modern era. As long as I return the favor, since fair's fair, right Moroha? You could even see me after I take a bath, or watch, whatever you prefer. Said Naruto, smirking at the Shihanyo, much to the girl's shock at his words. Moroha said with a faint blush, not expecting Naruto to suddenly become so responsive. Though when she saw the looks of jealousy on Tawa's and Setsuna's faces, along with the annoyance on the Silverettes, she realized just what was making Naruto act this way. I said it before, I'll say it again, Tawa, you're an idiot. Moroha thought while mentally groaning. Are you kidding me, Naruto? You're deciding to do this now of all times. Tawa demanded while looking at Naruto with narrowed eyes. And what am I doing exactly, Tawa? Naruto asked while tilting his head slightly. Why you know what? Saying things like that when we're supposed to be on a mission. Said Tawa, only for the whiskered blonde to shrug. I don't see any problem with it. Moroha did it earlier and she's still focused on the mission, so there isn't any problem with me doing the same. Besides, I just want her to know that I'm fine returning her offer whenever she wants me to. Said Naruto while winking at the bounty hunter, much to Tawa's growing annoyance. I shouldn't even be surprised, you hardly ever take anything seriously. Tawa scoffed, causing Naruto to narrow his eyes at her. That's funny coming from you. Retorted Naruto, with the older Hanyo glaring at him again. And what's that supposed to mean? Said Tawa, while Naruto stood up as they glared at each other. You know what? Acting like a starstruck fangirl when we're on a mission, but I guess you forgot with Julian around. Naruto said, confusing and annoying Tawa at that. What does Juan have to do with this? Tawa said, making the Uzumaki scoff. Oh, so now you know his actual name, what a surprise. Naruto said sarcastically, while the Silverette growled in annoyance. Of course I know his name. You're the one that called him Julian. Tawa retorted, with Naruto growling at her as well. Holy shit. Will you two just make out already? Moroha yelled in annoyance, getting tired of their jealousy-fueled argument. With her sudden shout making Naruto and Tawa both blush brightly, along with quickly putting some space between them. What? Like hell I'd ever even think of kissing this idiot. Said Tawa, with Naruto giving her a side glare. You sure as hell wouldn't be my first choice either, princess. I'd honestly feel sorry for any guy that'd want to kiss you. Naruto said, making the Hanyo glare at him as well. And I'd feel sorry for any girl that'd have to put up with your ego, if there'd even be any who'd want to deal with you. Retorted Tawa, which only made the male Shihanyo scoff at her. Whatever. I'm going to get some air. Naruto said before storming out of the room. Good. Maybe it'll help clear that fat, arrogant head of yours. Said Tawa before sitting down and crossing her arms with a huff. What's his problem? Tawa said before looking at Moroha and Setsuna, who were both giving her dry looks, the latter having realized what was going on. What? Tawa asked, wondering why they were looking at her like that. And people say I'm dense at times. Moroha stated dryly while shaking her head. While Naruto stormed out of the temple, eager to get away from Tawa for a little, unaware that he was being watched. With them being gaining a malicious, fanged grin at seeing the boy separating from the rest of his group, knowing they just found their first target. After storming out of the room, Naruto began walking through the temple until he made his way outside. Stopping for a moment to take a deep breath, enjoying the cool night air before walking away from the temple and over to the edge of the mountain it was. With the Uzumaki sitting down as he began taking a few breaths, feeling himself calm down with each breath he took. Ah, why did I do that? Naruto thought once his annoyance and anger left him, not believing what he said and how he was acting. Feeling bad at how he acted towards Tawa and everything he said to her, knowing he'll need to apologize to her once he goes back. And not just her, he needed to apologize to Moroha as well, given how he was responding to her flirting just to get back at Tawa. Making him feel even worse at using her like that. Why was I even acting like that? And why do I even care so much whenever Tawa talks about Julian like that? Thought Naruto, frowning at how this isn't the first time he's felt annoyed whenever Tawa's mentioned Julian before, when he first heard about him from Mei. Flashback. Naruto. Here, listen to this. Mei said, smiling eagerly holding some earbuds towards the whiskered blonde, with Naruto leaning back slightly with how close she was holding them to his face. And what is this exactly? Naruto asked, taking the earbuds and putting them in, listening to the music come through them. It's Julian. He's the greatest and his music is the best. Said Mei, while Naruto listened and bobbed his head slightly. Not bad I guess. Naruto thought, admitting it wasn't half bad. What do you think? Isn't Julian the greatest you've ever heard? Mei asked, eager to know what Naruto thinks of Julian's music. It's, said Naruto, only to stop when they saw Tawa walk in. Hey, what are you two doing? Listening to music? Questioned Tawa, having just got back home, making her curious to see Naruto and Mei together. Yeah, I'm having Naruto listen to one of Julian's songs so he can see how great he is, too. Said Mei, causing the Silverette to suddenly smile brightly. That's great, Mei. Tawa said before looking at Naruto. What do you think of it? Julian is really good, isn't he? I was actually pretty skeptical when Mei first introduced him to me, but the more of his songs I listened to, the more I really started liking them. I could show you some of my favorite ones once you're done listening to that. Said Tawa, wanting to share her favorite songs with Naruto. With her missing the look of annoyance Naruto gained at how she was praising Julian and his music, before he took the earbuds out and shook his head, not even bothering finishing the song. Sorry Mei, but I don't think this guy's music is for me. Naruto said, now no longer caring about Julian's music, making Tawa and Mei look at him. Really? If you don't like that one, there are some other songs you could try. Said Mei, with Tawa nodding in agreement. Yeah, he has plenty of different songs in different styles. You could try listening to some of them and see which ones you prefer. Tawa added, hoping they can get him interested in some of Julian's songs, only for the Uzumaki to shake his head. Thanks, but no thanks. It's just music that doesn't really interest me. Replied Naruto, not interested in trying any other songs by the idol. Are you sure you don't want to try some others? Mei asked while looking at Naruto hopefully, with him nodding in response. I'm sure Mei. Sorry I don't really like it, like you do. But if you enjoy it, then don't let me stop you from listening. Naruto said, being kind for the younger girl's sake, but also making it clear he wasn't going to change his mind. End flashback. Naruto groaned as he laid back, covering his face with his hands at how he was acting. Kami, I'm so stupid. Naruto muttered, knowing he'll really need to apologize to Tawa and Moroha. Before Naruto tensed slightly when he heard footsteps approaching him, making him quickly look only to relax when he saw it was Wan. Forgive me for disturbing you, Naruto. But I couldn't help but overhear the argument you had with Ms. Tawa, and I wished to make sure you were alright after hearing you leave the temple. Said Juan while bowing his head, making Naruto frown slightly as he stood up. Oh. Sorry you had to hear that, and if we disturbed you. Said Naruto, still feeling rather suspicious of the monk, but can also see he was acting like a dick to him as well. It's quite alright. I'm sure the situation can be rather stressful, tracking down Bakeneko and trying to uncover the mystery of disappearing travelers. I had actually been doing some research to see if I could provide more assistance, and I believe I've found an explanation as to why the Bakeneko may be drawn to this area. Juan replied, getting the whiskered blonde's attention. What did you find? Naruto asked, wondering what the monk could have found out about the Bakeneko. Please, follow me back inside and I'll explain what I've been able to discover. Said Juan, with Naruto nodding warily in response as they went back inside the temple. Keeping his guard up, Naruto followed Juan back into the main shrine as he sat across from him while the monk handed him some tea, getting a nod of thanks. Thanks. So, what were you able to find? Questioned Naruto as Juan sat down across from him. An old legend about this temple. About 100 years ago, a powerful priest had sealed away the spirit of a 300-year-old Bakeneko, while laying its body to rest beneath the floors of this very temple. Juan explained, surprising Naruto at this information. There's a 300-year-old Bakeneko sealed beneath the temple's floor. Naruto asked rhetorically, not expecting that to be the reason behind the rest of the Bakeneko being around here. Yes. This could explain why so many other Bakeneko have been drawn here, sensing the spirit of the older and more powerful Bakeneko. Making their lair on the mountain pass and attacking anyone unfortunate enough to come across them. Said Juan with Naruto frowning at what this could mean if the stronger Bakeneko could be behind this, somehow. And he just happened to find all this information in the middle of the night, while I'm away from the others. Naruto thought, glancing at Juan warily, finding it all a little too convenient. With Tawa, Setsuna and Moroha. Meanwhile, back in the girls' room, Tawa and Moroha had gone to sleep, with Setsuna remaining awake as usual but was pretending to be asleep. Though the demon slayer frowned as more time passed and nothing happened. Making her crack an eye open and look around for anything that could show the Bakeneko are preparing to attack. This doesn't make any sense. They should have made a move by now, no yokai would be able to pass up the chance on such easy prey. Setsuna thought, wondering why the Bakeneko haven't made a move to attack so they could take them out. With them having agreed to pretend to be asleep and wait for the Bakeneko to attack, giving them the chance to finish them off. Yet so far, nothing has happened, no sign they were attacking or even watching them. Which means they've either foreseen our trap and are waiting for us to actually fall asleep. But while it may work on Tawa and Moroha, they wouldn't know I'm incapable of falling asleep, so them waiting to strike wouldn't work. And if they aren't waiting to strike, then that means, Setsuna thought before her eyes widened in realization. Before she quickly shot up and rushed towards the door, grunting when she tried opening it only to hit a barrier, keeping her from opening the door. What's going on? Moroha said while quickly getting up with a hand on her sword with Tawa doing the same as they looked around to see if the Bakeneko took the bait, only for their eyes to widen when they saw the barrier around the door. The monk tricked us, said Setsuna, mentally cursing that they'd been lured into a trap themselves. With Naruto. Back with Naruto and Juan, the Uzumaki tensed when he sensed something above them, his eyes widening when he looked up and saw a swarm of Bakeneko above them. Move, Naruto said, tackling Juan out of the way just as the Bakeneko pounced at them, with the monk's eyes widening at the sight of the yokai. Behind you, said Juan, pulling out a few sacred sutras and threw them at the Bakeneko, causing them to yell in pain as they were purified by the tags. My turn now, said Naruto, pulling his fist back and channeling Raryoku into his palm, before throwing his fist forward. Spirit shotgun, Naruto said, releasing the energy as multiple projectiles that shot forward at high speed, blasting through several of the Bakeneko. What form of attack was that? Juan asked in shock at the attack, while moving back as he threw more sacred sutra to purify the Bakeneko, along with placing a few on the walls forming a barrier to keep them from escaping. The kind only I can do, said Naruto with a smirk before quickly drawing his swords and channeling Raryoku into them, slashing 5 Bakeneko that lunged at him. Before he turned around, blocking another Bakeneko which he quickly stabbed with his other sword while seeing Juan throwing sacred sutras around them at the Bakeneko. Making the Uzumaki relax more at seeing he was fighting them off as well, until he saw a group of Bakeneko jumping down at the monk from the ceiling, making his eyes widen. Get down, Spirit shotgun. Naruto said, channeling more Raryoku into his fist and thrusting it forward, launching multiple projectiles at the yokai. With one quickly falling to the floor, avoiding the Bakeneko just as the projectiles passed overhead and vaporized them, before he got back up and saw that those had been the last of them. Thank you, you likely just saved my life. Wan said with a bow, while Naruto nodded in response. No problem. And thanks for the help yourself, these things seem like they'd be difficult to fight alone in large numbers. But unless something is done then I don't think those will be the last of them. Said Naruto, with Wan nodding in agreement. Agreed. If these Bakeneko are being drawn here by the spirit of the older Bakeneko, then perhaps there's a way to purify the yokai and send it off to the afterlife. Ensuring that no more travelers need to fear being attacked again. Said Wan as Naruto nodded as well at this. Yeah, and you said it's sealed underneath the temple. Then let's go check it out and see if we can find its body. Naruto said before the two exited the temple to investigate underneath it. Going outside and down the stairs, the two looked underneath the temple floor for any sign of where the Bakeneko could be buried or any of the lesser Bakeneko. Can you see anything under there? Naruto asked, unable to see anything with how dark it is. I'm afraid not, even if the sun was out I don't think we'd be able to see anything under the temple. Let me go get some candles to light our way. Said Wan, only for the whiskered blonde to shake his head. You don't need to, I have something better. Said Naruto before pulling out a flashlight and turning it on, much to Wan's shock as he covered his eyes from the sudden bright light. My word. What sort of device is that? Wan asked in disbelief, lowering his arm once the flashlight was turned away from him. Just something that's better than any candle or torch. Come on, it shouldn't be hard to find anything now that we can see. Said Naruto as they climbed underneath the temple to continue their search. With Tawa, Setsuna and Moroha. Why would Wan put a barrier around our room? Tawa asked, grunting as she touched the barrier only to be pushed back by it. Because he's not really human. He must hiding his yoki enough that anyone would think he's just a regular human. And now we're trapped in here, while he's out there with Naruto. Said Setsuna, gritting her teeth that they were tricked and now trapped. Not for long. Out of the you two, I'll take that barrier down with my sacred arrow. Moroha said knocking an arrow and aiming at the door, with Tawa and Setsuna quickly moving out of the way. Channeling her Raryoku into the arrow, Moroha released it as it flew and hit the barrier, burning away the yoki-infused sacred sutras powering it. Good job, Moroha. Let's go. Said Tawa, opening the door as they ran out into the hallway, only to be stopped when they saw the Bakeneko charging at them. It's not over yet. Scourge of Swallows. Setsuna said, slashing his naginata through the air, unleashing a barrage of green energy swallows at the yokai, only for Tawa and Moroha to be forced to get out of the way. Hey, watch where you're swinging that thing, Setsu. Said Moroha, annoyed that she almost hit them. We need to be careful fighting like this. Tawa said while drawing her demon energy sword and shouting as she swung it as the Bakeneko once they got close enough, though Setsuna quickly raised her naginata, blocking Tawa's sword when it almost hit her. Before the girls had to move back as the Bakeneko lunged at them, with Setsuna scowling in annoyance when she tried swinging her naginata, only for it to be too long to move around the hallway. We can't fight like this, we need to move to a more open area. Said Setsuna upon seeing they wouldn't be able to make much progress in defeating the Bakeneko in the narrow hallways, not without risking hitting each other. Then it's a good thing I don't need weapons to kill them. Iron Reaver Soul Stealer. Moroha said while channeling her yoki to her claws and swung them, releasing yoki energy claws that sent the Bakeneko flying back only for them to soon get back up snarling at the Hanyo. You can't use any stronger attacks? Tawa asked, swinging her sword at the yokai when they jumped at them, forcing Moroha and Setsuna to duck to avoid being hit. Gimme a break. I can only do so much without using my rouge. Blades of Blood. Said Moroha while digging her claws into her hands and swung them at the yokai, launching yoki-fueled crescent-shaped blades of blood at the Bakeneko, throwing them back as the blades smashed into them. It'll be enough. Moroha, hold them back until we can get out of here. Said Setsuna as they ran down the hallway while they could, slamming her leg into 3 Bakeneko when they lunged at her. Right. Blades of Blood. Moroha said, swinging her claws out her side, throwing the Bakeneko against the walls before they could get back up. Naruto, please be alright. Thought Tawa, hoping that nothing's happened to Naruto, before smashing her sword's hilt into a yokai's head behind her before it could attack. With Naruto and Wan moved around beneath the temple, looking for any sign of the Bakeniko's grave, before they soon spotted a hole in the ground. That looks promising. Let's check it out, Naruto said as Juan nodded in agreement before they moved over to the hole, with them being surprised when they looked down in it and saw a large cat's skeletons. That must be the bones of the Bakeniko, so the legend is true, said Juan, not believing there really was a Bakeniko sealed down here. Yeah, looks like it. But, something seems off about them, said Naruto, frowning as he looked at the bones, unable to help but feel something off. Only for his eyes to widen in shock when the bones began floating and reassembling themselves, with them then glowing once they were fully assembled. We need to move. Bala, Naruto said, shooting a bala straight up at the temple's floor, blowing open a hole back inside. Not stopping there, the whiskered Shihanyo grabbed Juan and jumped up back into the main shrine of the temple before the two rushed back outside. Doing so just in time as the Bakeniko burst out from underneath the temple. Chasing after them is a skeleton, before being fully restored with white fur and solid red eyes with black slits. Juan, you think you can help me take this thing down? Naruto asked while drawing his swords in preparation. I'm afraid I can't. I haven't progressed far enough into my training for my sacred sutras to have any effect on a yokai this powerful, said Juan, making Naruto mentally curse that he's on his own. I don't know if I can beat this thing alone, so I just need to hold it off until the girls get here, thought Naruto before he quickly ducked when the Bakeniko lunged at him, swinging one of its paws at him which he dodged in time. I'm really starting to hate cats more than I ever have, said Naruto before swinging one of his swords across the Bakeniko's paw, making it hiss and jump back only to lunge at the Uzumaki again. With Tawa, Setsuna and Moroha back with the half-demon princesses, they had soon managed to get outside much to their relief at now having more room to fight. Though the moment they got outside, they felt the ground shaking slightly before seeing an explosion nearby. I'm gonna guess and say Naruto found the leader. Heavenly Arrow Barrage, said Moroha while grabbing her bow and knocking an arrow, before firing it at the yokai as it split into multiple arrows which shot through several of the cats. Then there's no time to waste here. Cyclone Burst, Setsuna said while spinning her naginata around, creating a large cyclone of wind that began sucking in the Bakeniko and tearing them apart from the force of the winds. Take this. Azure Dragon Wave, said Tawa while channeling her yoki into the tip of her energy sword before swinging it, unleashing a wave yoki that transformed into a dragon which rushed forward and vaporized the remaining Bakeniko. Only for the girls to see more Bakeniko coming out of the temple, much to their annoyance at how there were still more of them. Okay, I'm starting to understand why you guys hate cats so much. Crimson Dragon Wave, Moroha said, drawing her sword and swinging it, releasing a crimson energy dragon that blasted through the Bakeniko. With Naruto. Naruto jumped back when the Bakeniko tried leaping at him, nearly closing its jaws around his body if he hadn't moved in time. I've got you now. Spirit Gun. Demon Gun, Naruto said while aiming both hands at the Bakeniko, firing his spirit gun from one hand and his demon gun from the other. With the Raryoku and Yoki attacks shooting through the air before slamming into the Bakeniko's eyes, causing the yokai to yell in pain as it was blinded. The sight making Naruto smirk before he rushed the Bakeniko, jumping into the air once he was close enough and channeling yoki into his swords. Now take this, said Naruto, holding his swords back before delivering a cross slash to the Bakeniko's head once he was close enough, slicing straight through it. Maybe this thing isn't so what? Naruto thought as he landed on the ground, believing the Bakeniko isn't back to full power yet from just being revived. Only for his eyes to widen when he saw the Bakeniko getting back up as its wound began closing itself up. But what really shocked Naruto was what looked like human bones spilling out of the wound he made, before being sucked back inside the yokai once the wound vanished. Those are human bones. They must be the bones of its past victims. But if this thing is actually made of human bones, that means, thought Naruto before his thoughts were interrupted as he quickly turned around, raising his swords and blocking a strike from Juan with a shakuho. The Uzumaki narrowed his eyes when he saw Juan's eyes were now solid red with light blue slitted pupils, his nails grew into claws, fangs poking out of a more feline-shaped mouth and a magenta-colored aura of yoki around him. So many fools like you have tried coming here to kill the Bakeniko, only to be devoured. You'll be sharing their fate, said Juan, before Naruto grunted when the Bakeniko took the chance to slam its paw into him, sending the whiskered blonde crashing into a tree. You're the real Bakeniko, aren't you? That thing is just a puppet you're controlling, Naruto said as he got back up, grunting as he did so, with Juan laughing mockingly at him. How surprising, you can actually figure it out. Here I thought you were nothing but a naive fool, not suspecting anything as I approached you with a smile while you felt guilty over arguing with one of your mates. I would have thought you would be smarter than to believe such an act, but I suppose I shouldn't expect anything less from a Shihanyo of all creatures. Wang said mockingly, making Naruto curse that he hadn't trusted his instincts. After experiencing years of people tricking him by approaching with just a fake smile, he should have been able to see through an act like that by now. And now, because he let himself be fooled again, he's at an even bigger disadvantage. Okay. So if you're controlling that thing, then all I need to do to destroy it is to kill you. Stated Naruto while pointing a sword at Wang, who only laughed at him and held up his claws. That is if you can even survive long enough to try. Said Wang, before swinging his claws at Naruto, releasing multiple demonic energy claws at him. Naruto grunted as he jumped out of the way only to be forced to roll across the ground to avoid the fake Bakeneko's paw from smashing down on top of him. With Wang launching more energy claws at the whiskered blonde, with Naruto being prepared this time. Demon shotgun. Naruto said, channeling Yoki into his palm before throwing his fist forward, firing multiple projectiles that impacted the claws, making both attacks explode on contact. Rushing forward through the explosion, Naruto sheathed one of his swords and held the other one with both hands, blocking Wang's Shikuho when he swung it at him. With Uzumaki grunted when Wang started pushing him back. Before he managed to push it aside slightly, leaning back to avoid Wang's following swing. Allowing Naruto to slam his foot into Wang's chest, sending him stumbling back. With Naruto then jumping to the side, avoiding the Bakeneko when it tried swiping at him from behind. What was that about me surviving long enough? Naruto said as he got in close before holding his sword up to it bring down on Wang, only to suddenly pause when the monk suddenly grunted. Help me. Please, you have to help me. Begged Wang, making Naruto hesitate at hearing him beg for help, before the real Bakeneko growled and retook control. Fool. You should have taken your chance. Now die. Wang roared while swinging his claws at the Shihanyo, with Naruto's eyes widening as he jumped back. Only to grit his teeth in pain when Wang's energy claws still slashed him across the chest and abdomen, with there being enough force to launch him back. Skidding across the ground, Naruto gripped the injured area, wincing as he felt how deep the claws hit him. If I hadn't jumped when I did, then that attack likely would have killed me. Naruto thought, before he did scream in pain when the fake Bakeneko lunged at him from behind, biting down on his left shoulder and arm, making him lose his grip on his sword. Swinging the whiskered blonde around for a few moments, the fake Bakeneko soon tossed him towards the cliff, throwing him over the edge of it. Luckily, Naruto managed to grab hold of the ledge just in time with his right hand, while his left arm hung limply at his side with blood dripping down it. Gritting his teeth and suppressing his pain, Naruto forced his other arm up to grab the edge of the cliff. My, you're certainly a stubborn one, aren't you? It might be admirable, if you weren't so foolish in delaying the inevitable. Wang said mockingly as he stood over the Uzumaki. Give me a few moments and you'll see that the only thing inevitable is me killing you. Naruto retorted through gritted teeth while biting back a scream at the pain shooting through his arm, which only made Wang laugh loudly. You truly are naive. You had a chance to end me yet you allowed yourself to hesitate, all just to spare the man that's bewitched one of your mates. Wang taunted, with Naruto glaring up at him. Why don't you get this through that pea-sized animal brain? Tao is just a friend and rival. Said Naruto, wondering why the yokai seemed to think Tawa was his mate, or whatever. With Tawa, Setsuna and Moroha back with the girls, Tawa sneezed for a moment only to shake her head and swung her sword, slicing through 4 Bakeneko that leapt at her while she looked distracted. This'll finish you all for good. Scourge of swallows. Setsuna said, swinging her naginata through the air, unleashing a barrage of green yoki swallows that ripped through the last of the Bakeneko. And just to be sure. Crimson Dragon Wave. Said Moroha, swinging her sword and releasing her Crimson Dragon. Looking to see if any more Bakeneko would show up, the girls felt relieved that they finally got the last of them. We need to go, Naruto still needs help. Tawa said as she immediately rushed off to where Naruto was fighting, with Setsuna and Moroha following close behind her. With Naruto. Why don't you tell me something useful? What hell was that just now? Aren't you supposed to be a yokai? Naruto demanded, wanting to know what happened earlier when he tried attacking. I'm a yokai. This pathetic excuse for a monk is merely a useful host. I had been sealed beneath this temple for the past 100 years until this foolish monk believed that he should hold a service for me. The sutra he chanted out of compassion was strong enough to awaken my ensnared soul. That's when I broke through the seal, making it child's play to take control of the monk's body. Revealed, Juan, much to Naruto's disgust, it did something like that. I haven't met many yokai, but so far you're definitely one of the worst. You took advantage and control of someone that just wanted to save you, using his body while leaving him trapped and helpless. Naruto said, only for the possessed monk to laughing cruelly. Ha 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 ha. I was never seeking salvation. If anyone needs it, it'll be you in a moment. Juan said, swinging his claws at the Uzumaki to finish him off. I'll pass, retorted Naruto before he tensed his body and pulled himself up the cliff, launching himself into the air over the monk. Once he landed, Naruto rolled across the ground and retrieved his sword, turning to face Juan again, panting lightly from the energy it took to move his injured arm. Thanks for telling me all that. It's nice knowing that villains in real life enjoy monologuing about themselves just as much as they do in pop culture. Naruto stated, having taken the chance to gather what strength he could to pull himself up from the cliff. Though the whiskered Shihanyo then had to jump out of the way to avoid another strike from the fake Bakeneko, while the real one smirked wickedly as his yoki flared around him. I don't know what you're talking about, but I thank you for such useful advice. The next time a victim asks me questions, I'll be sure to just kill them right away. Said Juan, while giving his thanks for the advice. There's not gonna be a next time for you, retorted Naruto, though wasn't sure what he's going to do against two opponents with one of his arms being useless. That fake one is the real problem. It can simply put itself back together no matter what I do, while the one possessing one seems to prefer keeping his distance unless I'm distracted. So, he's probably not as powerful as he could do to Juan not being a strong enough host. But I can't do anything unless I can get rid of the fake. Naruto thought, trying to think of a plan, before he had to jump out of the way when the fake Bakeneko lunged at him. Let's see how you like this one. Getsuga Tensho. Naruto said, channeling his yoki into his sword and swung it, releasing a large back and red crescent-shaped energy wave that sliced straight through the Bakeneko's paw. Though Naruto scowled when the severed paw didn't even hit the ground and simply reattached itself to the Bakeneko. Before he grit his teeth and suppressed his pain as he grabbed his second sword, having an idea that might work. If you'll just keep putting yourself back together, then I'll just make sure there's nothing to put back. Twin Getsuga Tensho. Naruto said while channeling yoki into both swords as he held them, swinging them at the Bakeneko and unleashing two crescent-shaped energy waves in the form of a cross slash. Both attacks cut right through the Bakeneko's body, only for it to begin putting itself together again. Before Naruto jumped into the air and began rapidly swinging his swords while releasing more and more Getsuga Tensho at it. If you've got more than 9 lives, then I'll just keep attacking until you don't have any more. Getsuga Barrage, said Naruto while swinging his swords at the fake Bakeneko, ripping through it again and again as it tried regenerating only to be stopped. This continued for a few moments until Naruto held his swords together, channeling a large amount of yoki into them. Letting out a shout as he swung them down, releasing a massive yoki energy wave at the Bakeneko, engulfing its entire body. With the puppet yokai letting a pain-filled yowl as its body began breaking down, vaporizing it entirely until nothing was left. Try regenerating from that asshole, Naruto said while panting heavily as he fell to the ground, dropping his sword from his left hand while using his other one to stay standing. Having needed to exert effort with his injured arm to get the desired results, leaving him nearly drained and in intense pain. Only being able to stay standing by leaning on his other sword. I can't stop now, there's still, Naruto thought before tensing when he sensed Juan charging at him. Forcing himself to turn as fast as he could, Naruto grunted and gritted his teeth as he suppressed a scream of agony when Juan thrust his claws forward. Stabbing his arm straight through the right Uzumaki's shoulder and the right side of his chest with the yokai's hand sticking out his back, grinning wickedly at finally ending the Shihanyo. With this being what Tawa, Setsuna and Moroha saw once they arrived at the site, much to their shock and horror. Seeing Juan stabbing his arm through Naruto, while the Uzumaki wasn't moving as he dropped his remaining blade. Naruto! Tawa screamed, completely distraught at the sight of her friend Crush being stabbed. No! Whispered Moroha, cupping her hands over her mouth as tears began to build up in the corner of her eyes. All while Setsuna stood frozen in shock, not believing what she had just seen, only being able to grip her naginata tightly to try and remain calm. Hey. I suppose this has been fun while it's lasted. I've actually forgotten how fun it can be to kill such stubborn prey. Wan said only for his eyes to widen when he saw Naruto twitching slightly as he lifted his head. Hey, I guess that means you also forgot how to aim, dumbass. 'Cause you just missed all my vital areas, said Naruto, smirking at the possessed monk while blood dripped from his mouth. All of them, demanded Wan, not believing he's still alive even after that, while the whiskered blonde let out a pained chuckle. Yeah, and you wanna know what else? I can't miss when you're this close, Naruto said, making Wan's eyes widen when he felt Naruto press his finger against his abdomen. Spirit gun, said Naruto, firing a point-blank spirit gun, with Wan screaming as he was sent flying back where he crashed into a tree. Naruto cried out as well due to the attack also forcibly and painfully ripping Wan's arm out of his chest, causing him to hit the ground with a grunt. That's gonna hurt in the morning, Naruto muttered as he tried getting back up, having some difficulty now that both his arms were useless. For you, there won't be a morning, yelled Wan as he got up, enraged at how even now the Shihanyo refused to simply roll over and die. As he got up, the group saw his robes were ripped from the spirit gun, allowing them to see a cat's paw sticking out of his abdomen. Huh, so that's your real body, stated Naruto, grunting when he collapsed back to the ground. That doesn't matter now. Even if you can see my real body, your arms are now useless and you can barely even stand, let alone have enough energy to keep fighting. Now all you can do is lay there and Wan said as the paw sank into the monk's body, transforming his right arm into a more cat-like one while his power grew, intending to tear the Uzumaki apart and savor his screams. Only for the Bakeniko's words to die in his throat while his eyes widened in shock, watching as Naruto forced himself to get back up to his feet. All while picking up one of his swords in his mouth with a bloody grin, despite the pain he's in. Gasping in shock at the sight, not believing how anyone, let alone a Shihanyo, could get back up with the injuries he's suffered. How can you still stand? How can a single Shihanyo be this strong? Wan said, before his eyes widened when he swore he saw something behind the Uzumaki. Unconsciously stepping back in fear at seeing the image of a massive demonic dragon towering over him behind Naruto, roaring loudly as it glared down at the Bakeniko. You shouldn't underestimate me, no matter what I am. Because no matter what the odds are who I'm fighting, I never surrender. I don't care if you're human, yokai, hanyo or anything else. No matter who or what you are, if you try and hurt the people I care about, I'll cut you down with my own hands. That's why, I'm going to kick your ass and save Wan, even if it kills me, said Naruto, much to Wan's shock and growing fear. But when the Bakeniko really looked at the whiskered blonde, his fear began fading at seeing how his arms were hanging uselessly at his side, while he hadn't taken a single step despite his claim. Making Wan laugh madly as he regained his nerve, seeing that Naruto was just bluffing. You think you can stop me? You can barely even stand up, let alone attack. But I will admit, out of all my victims, you have proven to be the most troublesome, but now I'll relish in your screams, boy. Your head will be the first of my new collection, said Wan, before charging at Naruto intent to take his time in killing him. Don't you dare touch him. Azure Dragon Wave. Tawa shouted as her left eye glowed a bright silver while her yoki flared around her as she glared murderously at Wan. Swinging her sword, Tawa unleashed a large blue dragon at Wan, forcing him to jump back away from Naruto to avoid being obliterated. With Tawa jumping protectively in front of the Uzumaki, while Setsuna and Moroha rushed over to him, catching Naruto before he fell to his knees and dropped his sword his mouth. Hey, glad to see you all finally joined the fun, Naruto said, smiling at the girls, relieved to see they were all right. Well, we would have joined sooner, but we had to deal with some really angry kitties. But it looked like you were handling things just fine, said Moroha while smiling tensely at seeing his wounds up close and how much blood he's losing. Of course you'd believe being stabbed like that is fun. Hold still, we need to make sure you don't lose any more blood than you already have, Setsuna said, rolling her eyes to try and keep calm, as she and Moroha removed Naruto's upper clothing to treat his injuries and make sure he doesn't die. Glancing back at them, Tawa couldn't help but curse at the sight of his wounds, blaming herself for how he'd been attacked while alone. Damn it. Why did I have to get upset at him responding to Moroha's flirting? Why didn't I try going after him? Why did I have to let myself be distracted? Tawa thought, blaming herself as she felt completely shaken at seeing Naruto in such a state. For so long Naruto always seemed invincible, having always been able to match her and making short work of any street thugs that tried messing with them. How he never even flinched from Setsuna's initial hostility and threats. Along with being able to get back up and keep fighting during the battle against Tokatsu, he didn't let anything stop him. Now she's seeing him beaten up for the first time since they've met, and the Silverette couldn't help but blame herself. That it was her fault for letting herself be mesmerized by a yokai that resembled Julian and fighting with Naruto over it. Not helped by the fact that she couldn't tell the cats in the village were yokai, letting herself be fooled by them too. Hey Tawa. Stop blaming yourself. Naruto said, snapping Tawa out of her guilt-filled thoughts. But it's my fault. I couldn't tell the cats were yokai. I let myself be distracted just because a yokai looked like Julian and then having that stupid fight with you. It is all my fault. Said Tawa, only for the Uzumaki to shake his head and tried moving, with Setsuna and Moroha trying to stop him. Hey. Quit moving will ya? Moroha said, not wanting him to waste what little energy he has left. Idiot. Are you trying to kill yourself faster? Because that's all you'll do if you don't hold still. Said Setsuna, knowing he'll only aggravate his injuries further the more he moved. Tawa, a few weeks ago you wouldn't have even considered the idea of any of this being real. And even when you did learn about it, you didn't let that stop you from coming here to help Setsuna get her dreams back. That didn't stop you from fighting those stupid cats to help the village or coming here to make sure no one else got hurt. And you're still fighting now, so don't blame yourself and keep fighting like I know you always do. Naruto said, much to Tawa's surprise at his encouragement while feeling her resolve returning. And that's not a yokai. All it is a parasite that's possessing Wan's body. Revealed Naruto, shocking the girls upon learn that Wan was being possessed. He's being possessed by the Bakeneko. Tawa said looking at Wan. Not that there's anything you can do about it. That only way you can stop me is by killing the monk. Wan said with a smirk, with Tawa gripping her sword tightly. Unfortunately he's right. The only way for us to stop the Bakeneko for good is to kill them both, so you can't hesitate Tawa. Stated Setsuna, knowing they needed to stop the Bakeneko, which meant killing Wan as well. But, we can't just kill him. Wan is innocent and we need to save him. Said Tawa, still wanting to kill the Bakeneko, but not at the expense of also killing an innocent person. Well you need to hurry up and think of something. Otherwise, you're gonna have to kill him. Moroha said, not seeing any other choice besides killing them both. Hey, haven't you two learned killing someone isn't always the answer? Exclamation mark. What about before when the Hitoken possessed Mei? You wanted to cut it out of her, but you were able to get it out without hurting anyone. And Moroha, I know you wouldn't want to hurt anyone innocent, especially someone being used like this bastard cat is using Wan. You both know how peaceful it was in the other era, everyone you met and got to know. Maybe it doesn't teach someone how to be strong and survive, but it does show you that not everything is just one fight after another. Naruto said, making Setsuna and Moroha frown at his words, unable to deny he was right, that it had been nice to enjoy how peaceful the modern era had been during their time there. He's right you know. Inuyasha-sama was able to spare opponents in the past. Said Myoga while jumping out of Moroha's cloak, getting their attention. What in the hell are you blabbering about at a time like this? Questioned Moroha, not wanting to get a history lesson now of all times. Inuyasha-sama's weapon, the Tesseiga, could absorb his foe's yoki and leave everything else alone. Myoga explained, knowing Inuyasha had been able to spare opponents before thanks to the Tesseiga's ability to absorb yoki. While that information is useful, at the moment it's useless to us as we don't have the Tesseiga nor do we know where it is. Said Setsuna since knowing the Tesseiga can absorb yoki doesn't help unless they have the sword. And none of us know how to absorb yoki without hurting somebody, either. Moroha added, so they can't just absorb it themselves without hurting Wan. Absorbing only the yoki, that's it. Tawa said in realization as she remembered their fight against Root Head, how he absorbed their yoki while leaving everything else alone. If you think you can stop me that easily, it'll be the last mistake you ever make. Said Wan, as he lunged at them, refusing to take the chance they had a way to stop him, while the Silverette looked at him with renewed determination. I made a promise to restore Setsuna's dreams and to Mei that I'd come back. That's why, I'm fine risking my life, but I won't take the lives of others. Said Tawa as her left eye glowed silver, while Wan laughed mockingly at her. You're just as naive and pathetic as him, then. Juan said while releasing a barrage of energy blades at Tawa, only for her to quickly dodge them and hold her sword up. I'm going to be taking your yoki and save Juan. Tawa said as her demonic energy blade shot forward towards Juan, ensnaring him in a demonic energy whip much to his shock. Seeing he was restrained, Tawa shot forward and stabbed her energy blade into Juan's shoulder, making him scream in pain as he felt her trying to absorb his yoki. No, no. I refuse to be defeated by lowly Hanyo. Juan shouted while flaring his yoki to fight Tao's attempt to absorb it, making the silverette grit her teeth as she channeled more power into her sword to absorb his yoki. She's absorbing his yoki, said Setsuna in surprise to see Tawa absorbing the Bakeniko's yoki. She's trying to anyway. The Bakeniko must have had plenty of time to bond itself to Juan, and I don't know if Tawa has enough power to severe it. And if she's not careful, he may end up absorbing her power instead. Moroha said upon seeing that Juan wasn't giving up and was trying to fight off Tawa's attempt to absorb it. Before their attention turned to Naruto, only to be shocked when they saw him forcing himself to get back up. Moving forward before they could stop him, with the Uzumaki heading towards Tawa and threw his arms around her shoulders, with some effort. Much to Tawa's shock, before she blushed at how he seemed to be holding her. Naruto, what are you doing? Tawa said, wondering why he's doing this now of all times. Focus more on taking care of the asshole cat, said Naruto while channeling his own yoki into Tawa and her sword, making her eyes widen at realizing what he's doing. Right, said Tawa as she began pulling at the Bakeniko's yoki with Naruto helping empower her. No, no, no. I won't be stopped by inferior creatures like you two, shouted the Bakeniko, panicking at feeling his yoki now being ripped away and absorbed, while Naruto and Tawa grunted as they pulled as hard as they could at its power. Looks like you just lost your last life, Naruto said as he and Tawa pulled back, ripping the Bakeniko out of Juan's body as it was absorbed into her energy blade. Damn you! The Bakeniko screamed as it was absorbed and converted into yoki that was added to Tawa's own, with Juan falling to the ground. Letting a breath at seeing it's finally over, Tawa looked at her sword, seeing the Bakeniko's paw impaled on it before it hit the ground when her blade dispersed. Modern era. Meanwhile in the modern era, Tora was running from its pursuers as they were trying to bring it back home to Madame Shijimi. Only for the cat to slowly begin fading away until it was completely gone, only to be immediately replaced by a snow-white cat with a blue collar and a bell hanging from it. Got you, said another pursuer, running around the corner and blocking the cat, grabbing it before it could try escaping, causing to meow sadly at being caught. Yeah, we know Yuki-chan. You don't like being squeezed to death, but we still need to bring you back, the first chaser said while patting the cat on the head, before they went to bring her back to her owner. Feudal era. I feel like we just took care of two demons, Tawa thought, confused at the strange feeling before looking at Juan when he began coming to. What happened? How did I? Juan said as he rubbed his head, having a hard time remembering everything that happened. You're alright, that's what matters, said Tawa while smiling at him, only to turn to Naruto when she felt him letting go. Seeing her friend crush falling backward, making the silverette quickly catch him before he hit the ground, with Setsuna and Moroha quickly rushing to their side. Feeling relieved to see Naruto was still breathing and had just fallen asleep. Okay, good, he's just sleeping. Now let's, Moroha said, about to help lie him down so they could finish tending to his injuries, only for her eyes to widen in surprise when they looked at them. What? How are they? Said Tawa in surprise at the sight of Naruto's injuries emitting steam and were slowly closing themselves up. That's unlike anything I've seen before, Setsuna said, having never seen a yokai or hanyo heal at such a rate. Hey Grandpa Myoga, is this normal? Questioned Moroha, wondering if he's seen a healing factor like this before, only for Myoga to be just as shocked. I have seen yokai and hanyo both possess such accelerated healing. Inuyasha-sama was able to regrow a fang he lost in just half a day, along with surviving attacks that would be fatal to most other hanyo. Sesshomaru-sama is capable of healing even worse injuries, having once healed burns and gashes across his right arm, along with several large holes that were stabbed through his entire body, even being able to regrow his entire left arm. But even then he needed to focus his power to heal his injuries, it didn't simply happen. For young Naruto to be able to heal injuries even while unconscious, this is uncommon, even among yokai. Myoga said, much to their shock at this information. Looking back at Naruto, seeing that his injuries would likely be completely gone in a few hours at most at the rate they were going. They couldn't help but wonder just what yokai he's descended from to heal in such a way. Time skip 2 days. Feels like I was hit by a truck, Naruto thought while groaning as he began waking up with his entire body feeling sore, especially his arms and chest. Opening his eyes, Naruto saw he's still in what he guessed was the temple, but when he tried sitting up he felt a weight on his chest. Lifting his head to see what it was, the Uzumaki was shocked to see Tawa sleeping beside him with her head on his chest. What happened? Naruto thought, blushing at how close Tawa was and how cute she looked while asleep. Only to feel some panic when she began waking up, not sure how she'll react to seeing them like this, with the Silverette's eyes soon fluttering open as she looked straight at him. Hey, Tawa. Naruto said nervously, only to be worried when he saw her eyes begin glistening with tears, before grunting when she immediately hugged him with her face buried in the crook of his neck. Naruto. You're awake, you're okay. Tawa said, relieved at seeing he's awake and alright. Yeah, I'm fine, but, could you let go, since I'm still pretty sore? Said Naruto, causing the Hanyo to quickly let go. I'm sorry, I was just so worried. When we saw you be stabbed by the Bakeneko, all the blood you lost, then when you passed out after we killed it, then you wouldn't wake up. I was just really worried. And I'm sorry you got hurt because of me. Sorry for that stupid fight and getting mad at you when I was the one getting distracted. Tawa said, making Naruto frown and sit up before hugging her. You don't need to apologize, Tawa. I'm the one who should apologize anyway. I'm the one who started it just because I got upset at seeing how you acted around Juan. You had every right to be angry at how I was acting, and it's my own fault for going off on my own. Naruto said, only for Tawa to shake her head. I'm still the one that let myself be distracted just because Juan looked like Julian and then getting angry just because you were responding to Moroha's flirting. I could have also gone after you when I calmed down, but I didn't. Leaving you to fight the Bakeneko alone and nearly die. Said Tawa, still believing it's her fault. It's not, how about we both just agree we were being stupid and be glad that we're all still alive? Said Naruto, not wanting her to blame herself, before deciding they were both being stupid. I can accept that. Tawa replied, pulling back and smiling at the Uzumaki which he returned. Before their attention turned to the door when it opened, showing Moroha, Setsuna and Juan, looking at the two in surprise when they saw Naruto was awake. Before the female Shihanyo shot forward and glomped Naruto tearfully. You're finally awake. Moroha said, relieved at seeing Naruto is awake and alright, while the whiskered blonde grunted from her jumping on him and how tightly she's holding onto him. Yeah, I'm awake and still really sore, Moroha. Said Naruto, causing the bounty hunter to quickly let go. Sorry. Said Moroha, feeling bad that she could have hurt him, only for Naruto to wave it off. It's fine, I know you're just worried. And, I should actually be the one to apologize to you, with how I was acting before and what I said. Naruto said, with Moroha looking at him. So, you didn't mean what you said? Moroha asked, feeling a little disappointed he's saying sorry for flirting with her. Well I didn't. Just that I'm sorry for the circumstances I did it. Said Naruto while blushing slightly, with Moroha looking at him before smiling at him. It's fine, don't worry about it. Besides, this way I know you can give it just as good as you take it. Said Moroha with a smirk, feeling better at seeing Naruto's only sorry for why he flirted with her, not because he flirted with her at all. I am also glad to see that you're alright, Naruto. Setsuna said after sitting down beside him and smiling slightly at the Shihanyo, her eyes shimmering despite her attempts to keep her cool. Thanks Setsuna. I'm just glad to see you all alright, including you Juan. Naruto said while smiling at the girls before looking at Juan. Only thanks to the efforts of you and Ms. Tawa. You both are truly kind and noble people, especially Ms. Tawa. She didn't leave your side the entire time you laid there. Replied Juan while bowing his head, with Tawa blushing at him revealing she didn't leave Naruto's side. Before they saw the monk fall to his knees and bow his head to them, much to their surprise. I must apologize for all the trouble I've caused not just your four, but the village and those who were unfortunate to become victims of the Bakeneko. This only happened because of my pride and lack of experience. I believed myself powerful and skill enough to purify the Bakeneko and guide his soul toward the afterlife. But I see now that I'm not as powerful as I believed I was. It's only because of your efforts I was freed, for that you have my eternal gratitude. Juan replied, knowing he'll be forever thankful that they saved him from the Bakeneko. With the group being surprised at this, before they smiled and nodded in response, glad that they were able to solve the mystery behind the disappearing travelers and save an innocent life. Time skip 2 days. Juan, what are you going to do now? Tawa asked as they stood outside the temple, having fully rested and were ready to return to Kaide's village. I believe I'm going to return home. This experience has shown me that perhaps the life of a monk isn't for me, said Juan, seeing that being a monk wasn't the life for him. I'm glad to hear that and we hope you return to your home safely. And that you'll be able to live a better life, said Tawa, glad that he was going to have a more peaceful life. As do I. Please take care, all of you, and may you stay safe in your future adventures, Juan said while bowing his head as the group waved to him and took their leave. Now it's time to head back and get paid for a successful bounty, declared Moroha with a grin while pulling out the Bakeneko's paw, eager to see how much she'll get for this. As they made their way back down the mountain pass, Naruto pulled out the iPod and put in the earbuds, getting Tawa's attention, and turning on the song that Mei had shown him before. Listening to the song and bobbing his head slightly. I guess it's not that bad, Naruto stated, surprising the Silverette before she smiled softly and pulled out the earbuds. Actually, after the night we've had, I think I've had enough of Julian for a while. But thanks for trying, Tawa said, shocking Naruto that she's saying that before he returned the smile. That's surprising. But I won't complain, said Naruto as he put the iPod away, while Tawa rolled her eyes and shoved him slightly though kept her smile. Setsuna and Moroha watched the sight as they felt familiar feeling of jealousy appearing before they brushed it aside, deciding to let them have the moment, after everything they just went through, as they headed down the mountain pass. After turning in the Bakeneko's remains to Jubei, the group had returned to Kaide's village with Naruto, Tawa and Moroha being eager to rest after the mission. Even Setsuna had been relieved when they got back home. Before they all turned in for the night, aside from Setsuna who returned to Kaide's house with Tawa and simply waited for daybreak. Though through the night, the demon slayer glanced at her twin a few times, noticing how she began tossing and turning in bed, making Setsuna frown the longer it went on, wondering what was causing her to act like this, given she hadn't seen Tawa behave like this in her sleep before. Should I wake her? Setsuna thought, wondering if she should wake Tawa up to see if something was wrong, unaware of just what the Silverette was currently dreaming about. Leaving her to watch as her sister moved around, seeming to grow more frantic the longer it went on, much to the Ravenette's budding concern that something was wrong. Nightmare. Naruto. Tawa cried out in horror as she saw a figure shrouded in darkness slash a sword down onto Naruto, slicing straight through his swords when he tried blocking it, before slashing open his chest and abdomen after destroying his weapons, with the Uzumaki's eyes widening for a moment only to begin closing as he fell backwards. Much to Tawa's growing horror as his clothes were slowly stained with blood, with her quickly running towards Naruto. No, 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 screamed Tawa as she reached out to grab Naruto, only for it to seem like no matter how hard she tried she didn't get any closer. Her horror and pain only growing when the ground began crumbling away underneath Naruto, causing his body to begin falling into what looked like a bottomless pit. With the Hanyo trying to lunge forward and grab him before he fell in, only to just barely miss him. Naruto. Tawa screamed helplessly as she watched him fall into the darkness. But before it really registered that he was dead, Tawa was thrown back when something else emerged from the pit. The Silverette's eyes widened at seeing the thing that came out of it was a massive, serpentine dragon shrouded in darkness, leaving the only visible feature being its solid, glowing red eyes with thin slit pupils. With her attention quickly turning back to the pit when she saw Naruto emerging from it as well, much to Tawa's relief before she quickly rushed to him, only to be thrown back when the dragon swung its tail at her, before wrapping it around the whiskered blonde. Let him go, Tawa demanded, glaring at the dragon while reaching for her sword only for her eyes to widen when she didn't feel her weapon strapped to her back. Let him go. What an intoxicating innocence you have, the boy has been mine since the day he was born. It is by my will he exists at all, and it's through him my resurrection shall be fulfilled. I bore the humiliation of mixing my blood with that of a human, all for this moment, when my descendant could fulfill his purpose, said the dragon, much to Tawa's shock before she glared at the dragon. I won't let you use Naruto for anything, said Tawa, refusing to let this yokai or whatever it is use Naruto, only for the dragon to chuckle wickedly. You are far too late, half-demon princess. The dragon said as its tail uncoiled around Naruto, letting his body hit ground where he began thrashing around. With Tawa finding herself unable to move despite how hard she was trying to force her body to go towards him. Leaving her helpless to watch as Naruto's began changing, with his hair turning gray and growing longer all the way down his back. Patches of scales emerged across his body with his nails lengthening into claws, his already elongated canines grew longer until he had two prominent fangs jutting down from his jaw. Before he then stood up and looked at her, now having the same solid red, slitted eyes the dragon did, with a sword soon appearing in his hand. With it being a double-edged straight sword that was wider at the tip and narrower at the base, a yellow cross guard, a red hilt and a yellow round pommel with a red thread tied to it. Tawa couldn't suppress a shiver at the sight of the sword as a pale red aura began emitting off of it, feeling the pure evil that radiated off of the blade. With the Hanyo quickly doing her best to suppress the feeling and looked at her friend Crush. Naruto, please, I know you're still you. You wouldn't let yourself be controlled or used by anyone. Tawa said, hoping that he could still hear her. Only for her eyes to widen when Naruto didn't hesitate to charge at her with the sword held up, the last thing she saw being the blade as it descended down onto her. Real world. Tawa's eyes shot open as she sat up screaming, frantically looking down at herself for any sign of injuries before then looking to see where she was. Only to find Setsuna and Kaide looking at her in concern, making the Silverette slowly start calming down, breathing heavily. Hey, what's with all the screaming in there? Moroha asked, poking her head down into the window from her spot on the roof, only to be concerned at seeing the state Tawa was in. Tawa, are you alright? Setsuna asked, not expecting her to wake up screaming like that. I'm fine, just, Tawa said shakily, wiping the sweat off her forehead. A nightmare, stated Kaide, being able to guess she was having a nightmare, a very bad one with how she reacted. Why yeah, just a nightmare. I'm fine though. Tawa replied, only for the three to look at her in concern. Are you sure? Do you need us to get you anything? Questioned Moroha as she climbed in through the window, willing to get her cousin something if she needed it. Yeah, I'm fine, really. I think I'll just go for a walk to relax and get some air. Said Tawa, not wanting to reveal just what the nightmare was about. With her standing up and quickly exiting the house before they could say anything else, leaving Setsuna, Moroha and Kaide to trade looks, wondering just what Tawa's nightmare had been. With Tawa. Once she was outside, Tawa immediately headed over to where the demon slayers resided since Naruto's bunking with Kohaku and Hisui since he couldn't stay with her, Setsuna and Moroha at Kaide's house. After arriving, Tawa peeked into the window and searched for Naruto, feeling relieved when she saw him and didn't see anything abnormal. Nor did he seem to be in any kind of pain and was sleeping peacefully, much to Tawa's relief. With her also checking around where the demon slayers kept their weapons, wanting to also make sure that evil feeling sword wasn't anywhere in sight, only to shake her head. No, there's no way something like that would be here. Thought Tawa, knowing if something that radiated that kind of evil aura was here, then she and the others would have felt it by now. Looking back at Naruto, Tawa stayed there for a few moments as if expecting something to happen and wanting to make sure he was alright. When she was sure that nothing was going to happen, the Hanyo sighed and began heading back to Kaide's house, while shaking her head. It was just a bad dream, nothing more. I'm still freaking out over what happened with the Bakeneko and now my mind is playing tricks on me. Naruto's fine, so are Setsuna and Moroha, nothing's going to happen to any of them. Tawa thought, feeling assured that her nightmare was just a bad dream from what happened with the Bakeneko. Nodding to herself that everything was fine, Tawa returned to Kaide's house, finding Moroha asleep on the roof again and Kaide asleep inside. While Setsuna sat against the wall and looked like she was sleeping, though Tawa knew better but was thankful her sister didn't try questioning her. Lying down and closing her eyes, it didn't take long for the Hanyo to fall back asleep, missing when Setsuna opened an eye and looked at her. Timeskip 1 day asterisk. Look alive, Tawa. Blades of blood. Moroha said while swinging her claws at Tawa, launching several blood blades at her. With Tawa's attention snapping back towards her cousin, quickly bringing her sword up and blocked the blood blades before quickly jumping out of the way when she couldn't block all of them. Iron Reaver Soul Stealer. Said Moroha, swinging her claws again and releasing Yoki energy claws at Tawa, which she was more prepared for as she swung her sword to deflect the claws, sending them crashing into the ground around her. Are you feeling alright, Tawa? You seem distracted. Moroha said while looking at her cousin, having seen how she didn't seem to really be focusing on the sparring match and kept looking away. Why yeah, I'm fine. Just having trouble focusing is all. Replied Tawa only to glance away again with the Ravenet looking where she was, seeing that Tawa was looking to where Naruto was training. All of them wanting to train for the day, with Moroha wanting to work on improving her blades of blood and Iron Reaver Soul Stealer. Making them stronger so she could use them more freely without turning into Inuyasha to use them at full power. With Tawa offering to spar with her to help improve them, blocking or deflecting the attacks as Moroha launched them at her. While Naruto was working on his Getsuga Tensho along with the variations he used against the Bakeneko. Now being able to use them more easily with both his arms healed, allowing him to use less energy in the attacks, but they still took a lot out of him. But the entire time, Tawa found it hard for her to focus on the training, looking at Naruto repeatedly the entire time. Unable to stop herself from thinking about the nightmare she had last night, the image of Naruto dying and then what the dragon said about using him as a means of resurrecting itself. It made her keeping looking at the Uzumaki, just to make sure he was alright and still himself. Leading to her having a few close calls in blocking or dodging Moroha's attacks, only to end up looking at Naruto again afterwards to reassure herself that he's still alright. Do you want to switch Tawa? I could spare with Moroha and you could do some training. Naruto said, snapping Tawa from her thoughts. Works for me. Let's see what you can do. Said Moroha, grinning eagerly at the chance to spar with the Uzumaki. No. Shouted Tawa, startling Naruto and Moroha at her outburst. I just mean, no, that's fine Naruto. I just needed a moment to gather my thoughts, but I can focus now. So, let's get back to it, Moroha. Tawa said while holding her sword up, not wanting to take any chances if Naruto fought Moroha. While she knew that Moroha wouldn't intentionally try hurting Naruto, Tawa refused to risk any accidents happening if they sparred with each other. Oh okay. If you're sure. Said Naruto while giving the Hanyo a questioning look. I am. Whenever you're ready, Moroha. Said Tawa, with Moroha nodding slowly in response. Right. Iron Reaver Soul Stealer. Moroha said as she swung her claws at Tawa and released the Yoki claws, with the Silverette blocking the first two before swinging her sword and deflecting the last of them. Watching them get back to their spar for a few moments, Naruto turned back to his own training, holding both his swords and charging them with Yoki. Twin Getsuga Tensho. Naruto said, bringing his swords down, unleashing two crescent-shaped energy waves that tore through ground as they moved towards the trees. Naruto watched as his attacks sliced through multiple trees until eventually dispersing, before he went saw how much damage they had done. Only to sigh when he saw it wasn't as much damage as he was hoping for. I really need to train more if I want to make it as strong as I want it to be. Naruto thought as he went back over to where he was standing. Getsuga Barrage. Said Naruto before he began rapidly swinging his swords, firing off repeated blasts with each one destroying a single tree each before dispersing. Only they weren't as powerful as the normal Getsuga Tensho. While they were still strong, Naruto wanted the main purpose being speed over power. Allowing the Getsuga Barrage to hit an enemy faster than they could block, dodge or heal from. Making it so if they aren't killed by the barrage of attacks, then they'll likely be incapacitated and finished off with a stronger attack. But while the main focus was speed, Naruto wanted to make sure all his attacks were powerful enough to take out at least one enemy, no matter how powerful they would be. One powerful enemy, then trying to take out 100 yokai with a single attack. Naruto thought, determined to try and reach that level of power after what Myoga had told them. Flashback. What did you say? Moroha said, not believing what Jubei just said he'd pay for the Bakeneko's remains. 25 mon. Repeated Jubei, much to Moroha's disbelief and annoyance that he's only giving them that much. But why, though? Demanded Moroha, having expected a lot more than just 25 mon. That thing nearly killed me, shouldn't that make the bounty much higher? Naruto asked, just as annoyed as well that they weren't getting more, despite how he nearly died. And that's why you're getting 25. Something like this would only be worth 15 mon at most, but since it seems like the Bakeneko was a bigger threat than expected, you get 25. Jubei replied, annoying the two Shihanyo even further. We did the job without killing the monk, which was a total pain. Moroha said, believing they should get more since they were able to kill the Bakeneko without killing one as well. That sounds a lot like a you problem. Jubei stated since he only cared that the yokai is killed and the body is turned in, not how it's done. Then stop wasting our time on these small fries, and give us jobs that'll make us some real money, already. Said Moroha, getting tired of doing jobs that barely gave them anything. Moroha, maybe we could just accept the reward since it's at least better than what it'd originally be worth. Tawa said, smiling sheepishly at how they were acting, with the female Shihanyo grumbling in annoyance. Fine. But you better have some real jobs next time. Moroha said while taking the payment, figuring she should just take what she can get. As long as you remember you asked. Jubei said dryly, knowing they wouldn't be prepared for some of the more difficult bounties, but if Moroha wanted a challenge so badly then he'll see what he has. The group exited the shop to make their way back to Kaide's village, eager to return home and rest after the harder than expected mission. Hey, Myoga. Naruto said while looking at Moroha, getting the girl's attention as the flea yokai jumped out of her collar. Did you need something, Naruto? Questioned Myoga, not expecting to be called out. Yeah, I did. Back at the temple, you said that Inuyasha's sword, the Tesseiga, could absorb yoki, right? Naruto asked, curious to learn more about the Tesseiga. Oh yes, the Tesseiga's most useful ability is being able to absorb the yoki from any yokai or yokai-based artifacts, turning abilities and attacks it absorbs into new powers for itself. Inuyasha-sama used this ability quite frequently during his adventures, assimilating many new abilities into Tesseiga, allowing it to cut through barriers, fire a barrage of diamond shrapnel and of course absorb an enemy's yoki directly. He could even do as Tawa-sama did and pull yokai from possessed victims' bodies, freeing them without harming the victim at all. Myoga explained, much to the group's amazement at the Tesseiga's abilities. It can do all of that? Questioned Moroha, surprised at how powerful her father's sword is. It can and so much more. But even without the assimilated power, the Tesseiga's own strength is still enough to be feared by any who stand against it. The Tesseiga was forged from one of the fangs of your grandfather, Toga-sama, or the Inu no Daiokai as he's more commonly known as, with it having been his main weapon for most of his life up until his death. Upon which according to his will, the blade was passed on to Inuyasha-sama, though Sesshomaru-sama himself has, temporarily, wielded the Tesseiga several times, as it does belong to Inuyasha-sama. And all three displayed great skill in wielding it, especially in using its signature attack, the wind scar. Said Myoga, getting their attention. The wind scar? Setsuna asked, wondering what kind of attack that was, given her own use of wind. Yes. The wind scar was the signature attack of Tesseiga, until Inuyasha-sama learned the backlash wave. But with the wind scar, it's accomplished by finding the rift, or scar, between the yoki of Tesseiga's wielder and that of their opponents, then swinging the sword into the scar, unleashing a massive, destructive wave of yoki. At its full power, the wind scar is able to kill 100 yokai with just a single swing, something Toga-sama, Inuyasha-sama and Sesshomaru-sama have all demonstrated. Sesshomaru-sama is even the one who showed its true power to Inuyasha-sama after taking possession of it, where he summoned 100 yokai and killed them all with one swing, even destroying a mountain with the power of the attack. Myoga revealed, shocking the group at learning just how powerful the wind scar is. 100 yokai, with just one swing. Tawa asked, unable to imagine an attack being that powerful, and her father has apparently done that and even destroyed a mountain with it. Indeed, it's why the Tesseiga is such a revered and legendary weapon. There are few other blades that would even survive one clash with it, let alone rival its destructive power. The only one I know of is Sesshomaru-sama's own Bakuseiga. Said Myoga, not mentioning the fact that Sesshomaru had used Bakuseiga to wipe out 1,000 yokai with a single swing, not wanting to shock them too much. With the group being shocked and amazed to learn just how powerful Tesseiga is, while Moroha grinned at how her father had such a powerful sword. Naruto was also shocked and amazed, but also feeling a new determination flow through him as he had a new goal in mind he wanted to achieve. End flashback. Learning that Tesseiga is able to wipe out 100 yokai in a single swing, it made Naruto determined to reach that level of power himself. To having the strength and power to fight any yokai or enemy that would go after those he cares about. Getsuga Tensho. Naruto said while holding one of his swords with two hands as he brought them down, unleashing a much larger crescent-shaped blast. Feeling pleased as he watched travel further and unleashed more damage than the other attacks before it. With Setsuna. Scourge of Swallows. Said Setsuna, swinging her naginata as her green energy swallows shot forward, stabbing through several trees, before she began spinning her weapon around in front of her. Cyclone Burst. Setsuna said, creating a cyclone of wind that shot forward, tearing through the trees as it did so. Keeping it up for a few moments, the demon slayer soon stopped only to frown at the destruction her attack caused, not feeling pleased or satisfied at the sight. It doesn't matter how powerful my attacks or if they're useless in enclosed spaces. Setsuna thought while thinking over the fight against the Bakeneko. How she and Tawa actually had trouble against the lesser ones, just because all their attacks depended on their weapons. Which they couldn't use if they couldn't move them around properly or they're stuck so close to each other, leading to the risk of them hitting each other. The only one who didn't have any trouble was Moroha. She and Naruto were the ones that had attacks not tied to her weapons. Even more annoying is I do have other attacks, but I can't use them. Thought Setsuna while looking down at her hand in annoyance since she couldn't use her poison due to her demon blood being sealed away, which she can't use without the risk of going berserk. The Ravenet then glanced over at Naruto, watching as he trained only to quickly look away when he glanced over at her. Grabbing her chest as she thought about the sight of him fighting the Bakeneko, how he was stabbed. Knowing if they had arrived just a little later, he would be dead right now. Why does that thought hurt so much? Thought Setsuna, feeling her heart ache at just the thought of the Uzumaki being dead. Glancing at Naruto again, Setsuna then turned her attention towards Tawa and Moroha before she took breath and went over to them. Moroha, Setsuna said, making her twin and cousin stop their sparring to look at her, with Naruto looking over at them as well. Huh, what's the matter Setsu? Moroha asked, with Setsuna's eye twitching slightly at the constant nickname. Nothing. I simply believe that you and Naruto should continue working on his spiritual training, as there's something I wish to speak to Tawa about something. Said Setsuna, shocking the others at her words. If you need to talk to me about something, you can just say it Setsuna. Tawa said, while feeling happy that Setsuna wanted to talk to her. I'd prefer if it was done in private. Setsuna said, now confusing them at what she wanted to talk to Tawa in private about. Well, I've been training enough with my Yoki attacks, so we could do some spiritual training if you're up for it Moroha. Said Naruto, stumbling slightly when the bounty hunter immediately grabbed his arm with an eager grin. Spending some quality alone time together, Whiskers, do you even need to ask? Let's go. Moroha said while dragging Naruto off, being more than happy to spend some time alone with her friend crush. Much to Setsuna's and Tawa's annoyance at how eager she was to be alone with the male Shihanyo, though the former manages to suppress her annoyance for the time being. Before the Silverette turned to her with a frown. What was that about? What could you want to talk about that you'd need Naruto and Moroha to leave? Tawa asked, not liking that she sent Moroha off alone with Naruto, combined with her now worrying that something will happen to him. I was thinking about the fight with the Bakeneko, how neither of us were able to do anything until after we got outside. While needing to depend on Moroha to hold them off while we got away. So I believe it would be good for us to work on developing unarmed attacks of our own, that way should we ever be in a situation where we can't use our weapons, we won't be rendered helpless. Explained Setsuna, making the older twin calm down at her explanation. Yeah, I was thinking about that, too. Naruto and Moroha are the only ones that don't need their weapons to fight, and I don't want us to rely on them if we can't use ours. Did you have any ideas? Tawa asked, with Setsuna nodding in response. Yes. I was thinking of further developing my wind manipulation, creating attacks I can use without my weapon. Setsuna replied, wanting to further develop her wind manipulation outside of her cyclone burst. What? I thought your attacks were connected to your weapon. Said Tawa while looking at the Naginata, having assumed that's what let Setsuna perform her attacks. The Kanamitsu no Tomo is a human-forged weapon. While it is more powerful than most normal weapons, it only acts as a medium for my attacks. Cyclone Burst and Scourge of Swallows come from my own power. Explained Setsuna, making Tawa nod in understanding. Well, then it would be good to see what other wind-based attacks you could come up with. I did think of some ideas. One is that with how I can create a demonic energy blade if I could do the same with other weapons, shaping my Yoki into different constructs I could use to attack with, like the whip I made to restrain the Bakeneko. And, there's also what Myoga said about the Tesseiga, how it can absorb Yoki and assimilate the powers of other yokai it defeats. I was wondering if I would be able to do the same thing, since I can absorb Yoki, if I would be able to replicate the abilities of the yokai I take it from. Tawa said, with Setsuna nodding in approval. Very good. It would be beneficial if you could develop your ability to manipulate your Yoki into different shapes and attacks. And if you are capable of replicating the abilities of yokai whose power you take, it will open up more paths to what you can do. Setsuna stated, the Silverette smiled happily at her words. Thank you, Setsuna. And there's something else we could try to give us more ideas, we could look at the anime and manga Naruto brought with him. Said Tawa, only for Setsuna to give her a dry, annoyed look. I fail to see how any of that would assist us in training. Said Setsuna, only for Tawa's smile to turn into an amused one. You do know all his attacks, the spirit gun, demon gun, Bala and Getsuga Tensho, they all came from anime and manga. So we could look at them and see what attacks we would be able to recreate. Tawa said, with Setsuna raising a brow at this information before sighing. If that's the case then I suppose it may prove beneficial. Setsuna said, figuring it wouldn't hurt to look at it if it does help them develop unarmed attacks. With Naruto and Moroha. Meanwhile, Naruto and Moroha had gone into the woods until they couldn't see Tawa or Setsuna anymore, before they came to a stop. Once they found a good spot, Moroha had Naruto show her all his Raryoku attacks to see how they've come along. With her smiling happily once she saw how powerful they were, with his spirit gun shooting through 4 trees and halfway through a 5th one. While his bala smashed through 3 trees easily, with a 4th having a decent chunk broken off. And she wasn't surprised at the power of his Raryoku Getsuga Tensho, given how powerful his Yoki version was getting from his training. Alright. So, your spiritual training has really progressed a lot since we first started. I'm sure you'd be able to wipe out plenty of yokai with your attacks being as strong as they are. Which means that we can get started on the next step, infusing your spiritual attacks with the same purification abilities my arrows have. Moroha said, with Naruto looking at her with a raised brow. Aren't yokai purified just from being killed by Raryoku attacks? Naruto asked, only for Moroha to shake her head. It doesn't work like that. While all humans, Shihanyo like us, and even Hanyo have Raryoku, you still need the knowledge, training, experience and understanding to use it for specific purposes. You've just learned to channel yours into attacks, but that's it. While I have training to use my power to destroy or pacify yokai, break through demonic barriers, trap yokai and set up my own barriers with sacred sutras. Explained Moroha as the Uzumaki nodded at all this. So then you'll show me how to destroy and pacify yokai like you can with your sacred arrows. Naruto said, with Moroha nodding in response. Yep. And the first step to learning it, is meditation. Moroha said before sitting on the ground in a meditative position, much to Naruto's chagrin. Seriously? Meditation? Questioned Naruto, having never liked the idea of sitting still for long periods of time. Yes, I'm serious. You need to learn to focus and feel your own Raryoku, to harness it for something besides just attacks. Said Moroha, with the whiskered blonde sighing but complied and sat down in front of the female Shihanyo. Good. Now, just close your eyes and focus. Moroha said, closing her eyes with Naruto doing the same as he began focusing. Though as more time passed, the more Naruto began fidgeting at how long he's had to sit still along with not sensing anything. Before he opened his eyes, frowning at seeing Moroha sitting perfectly still and not moving a muscle. How are you able to do that? Naruto asked, not expecting Moroha to be able to mediate so easily given her personality. I've just had a lot of practice, since it definitely wasn't easy for me when I first started learning. I was much better at learning how to hit things rather than sitting still to learn how to purify them. Replied Moroha as she opened her eyes, much to Naruto's slight annoyance. Well, it's probably easier to learn when you were younger. Said Naruto, with the Ravenet patting his hand. Relax, I know it isn't easy, I'd say you're doing pretty good since you're still sitting down. When I started I was lucky if I lasted a minute before getting up. And besides, I probably have an easier time with this stuff because of my mom, from everything Kaide told us about her. Moroha said, with the male Shihanyo nodding in agreement. I'd probably have an easier time actually practicing it on enemies. Naruto stated, causing Moroha to grin. Now you're talking. Tomorrow we can check with Mr. Jubei to see if he's got any better bounties for us. And since it'll also double as spiritual training, that means it'll just be you and me. Said Moroha, liking the chance to go on a bounty alone with Naruto. That sounds good. Naruto said with a smile, which Moroha returned. Great. Then tomorrow we'll check in and see what new jobs he has. But for now, you still need to try and make some progress on meditating first. Moroha replied, smirking when Naruto groaned by nodded as he closed his eyes again. Later with Tawa and Setsuna. Beast tear palm. Setsuna said, swiping her claw through the air, unleashing a razor-sharp wind wave that sliced through the air until it hit a boulder and cut straight through it. Sero. said Tawa, aiming her index and middle finger at another boulder, gathering her yoki at her fingertips as a light blue ball formed. Before she fired his large beam from them towards the boulder, with the beam shooting right through it and everything behind it, destroying anything the beam went through. Once the blast faded, Tawa and Setsuna looked around to see several trees that had been cut down or had massive holes blown through them. Along with other rocks they practices with slashes and holes of varying sizes carved into them. The twins having moved up to practicing on rocks once they succeeded in using their attacks on trees. This was certainly productive, stated Setsuna, pleased at the new attack she's developed, already thinking of other ways she could utilize her wind manipulation. Yeah, I'm sure Naruto will be excited when he sees I can use the Sero now. Tawa said, smiling at recreating the attack, knowing Naruto will enjoy it when she shows him. I suppose. Though you should work on focusing it more, given the size of it could lead to any ally getting caught in the blast. Setsuna said, seeing how large the blast was and the resulting holes it left behind. I'm going to work on it, and there are other versions I'll be able to learn. Said Tawa, knowing she still needed to work on it, wanting to be able to fire the Sero with one finger rather than using two. As long as you still continue to train it. Said Setsuna before grabbing her naginata and walked away. Setsuna. The village is the other way. Tawa said, confused at where she was going. I'm aware, but after training I wish to take a bath and there's a lake nearby. Setsuna replied, wanting to bathe after training all day. Oh. I'll go with you, since a bath does sound nice. Said Tawa, causing the Ravenet to pause for a moment and glance at her. Very well. Muttered Setsuna, not sure what else to say before they headed towards the lake. Though should we go get some clean clothes first and then go to the lake? Tawa said, knowing it'd be better to have some clean clothes, making Setsuna sigh but nodded in agreement before they turned back to the village to get some clean clothes to change into. Later. After getting new sets of clothes to change into, the twins headed to the lake which didn't take them long to reach, where they set down their clean clothes and began stripping off their old ones. Once they had removed the last of their clothes, they had gone into the water with Tawa shivering slightly at the cold feeling. That was colder than I expected, but not so bad. Tawa said, getting used to the temperature in a moment. Obviously. We are immune to the cold. Muttered Setsuna with her head lowered as she scooped up water and poured it over herself, with Tawa glancing at her for a moment only to quickly look away from her sister's naked body. Right. Said Tawa while blushing faintly, now realizing she and Setsuna were both completely naked and alone, having only thought of spending more time with her sister and not about what they'd actually be doing. The older Hanyo then dived under the water to get herself wet, getting Setsuna's attention at the sudden noise. Only for her to immediately look away with a faint blush when Tawa came up, brushing her hair back. Is something the matter, Setsuna? Tawa asked while quickly glancing at Setsuna upon seeing how she's keeping her head down. No, nothing is the matter. I'm merely focusing on cleaning myself. Setsuna replied while looking at Tawa for a moment, her blush intensifying at seeing she's looking at her too, making her quickly look away. Right. Said Tawa as she turned away, embarrassed that Setsuna caught her staring at her, even more so that her twin looked at her as well. With the twins descending into an awkward silence as they continued cleaning themselves, unable to stop themselves from occasionally looking at each other again. Only to just as quickly turn away to avoid being caught staring. We actually used to bathe together when we were younger, so, there's nothing wrong with us doing it now. Said Tawa while smiling awkwardly at the demon slayer, with Setsuna giving her a dry look. It seems you forgot that we were apparently 4 during that time, and it's been 10 years, so it is rather different as we were children then, now we are young adults. There's also the fact that I have no memory of anything like that at all. Said Setsuna, making Tawa's smile turn into a sheepish one. Right, sorry. I just remembered that we always liked it, having fun and splashing each other. Tawa said, with Setsuna giving her a warning look. If you even think about it, Setsuna said threateningly, causing the Silverette to giggle lightly. Don't worry, I wasn't going to. Tawa said in amusement, while the demon slayer narrowed her eyes slightly as she continued cleaning herself. Though when she looked back at Tawa, Setsuna blushed at seeing she's still looking at her and smiling, making the Ravenet fidget slightly. While Tawa felt the awkwardness begin vanishing, letting her admire her sister more and how much she's changed since they were children. Seeing how toned her body was from all her training and fights she's no doubt been in, giving her a good amount of muscle that helped add to her beauty. Combined with the curves she's developed, her high C-cup breasts, an equally toned and round backside, along with her shaven crotch. While her long wet hair clung to her body and water dripped down, adding even more allure to her. Tawa couldn't help but smile happily at how beautiful her sister grew up to be. You know, one thing I always knew when we were kids, is that you'd grow up to be incredibly beautiful and I'm happy I was right. Along with being very strong, which I think only makes you look more amazing. Tawa stated, which only made Setsuna's blush intensify. To thank you. Why yo you said Setsuna, not expecting the sudden compliment, but did feel she should say something in return, making her look at Tawa as well. Finding her twin was just as toned as her from all the fights she's gotten into and the training she's done, something Setsuna would forever deny was rather appealing to look at. While the rest of her body felt like she was looking in a mirror, seeing Tawa had the same sized, firm-looking C-cup breasts, toned abdomen, heart-shaped backside and bare crotch as herself. The only difference being her eyes and wet, short silver hair, which Setsuna would also deny looked very good. Why yo you look very pretty and strong as well. Setsuna said, making Tawa smile brightly at the ravinette. Thanks, Setsuna. But I think you still look prettier. Said Tawa before she went back to cleaning herself, much to Setsuna's relief as she did the same. Though as they did so, both sisters felt the initial awkwardness fading away, letting them look at each other without any embarrassment. I suppose that one thing the other world has over this is the convenience of warm baths. Stated Setsuna, with Tawa nodding in agreement. Yeah, I never thought about how nice it is, being able to decide to take a warm or cold bath until now. But it's a good thing we don't really feel the cold, so that at least makes it easier. Tawa said, with Setsuna nodded as well at this. Indeed. It does help teach good awareness, making sure that no one is nearby or sense if someone is approaching. And no one is here or approaching at the moment. Setsuna said, adding the last part when Tawa looked around nervously and covered her breasts and crotch. Oh, that's good. Said Tawa, relieved that they didn't to worry of anyone seeing them naked. Yes, it is. Which also means no one can hear us either, so are you willing to tell me what's really wrong? Setsuna asked before turning towards her twin, making the silverette look at her in confusion. Nothing's wrong. Tawa replied, only for Setsuna to look at her with an unconvinced expression. Then what about the nightmare you had last night? Or how during training you kept looking at Naruto while sparring with Moroha? Or that when we were training, you kept looking to where they went off and looked like you were going to chase after them? Is all that nothing? Questioned Setsuna, with Tawa's eyes widening at each word, before she was shaking at the end. And nothing is wrong. Said Tawa, making the ravinette sigh. Fine. If you refuse to talk about it, then I won't say anything else. I merely believed it would be better to talk rather than continue to worry over whatever it is you're feeling. Setsuna said, not intending to push the issue if Tawa was going to be stubborn about it. I watched him die. Tawa said quietly, though Setsuna still managed to hear her and turned back towards her twin. You watched who die, Naruto? Setsuna asked, while Tawa nodded in response. Why yes. In my nightmare, I saw him be attacked by someone, they cut open his chest and abdomen, I tried going to him but then his body fell into a pit and then a dragon came out of it with him. It said that it only created Naruto to use him as a means for its resurrection, meaning that dragon is Naruto's ancestor. I tried stopping it but it took Naruto, twisting and changing him, then he attacked me. I don't know if it was just a nightmare after what happened with the Bakeneko or if it was something else, all I know is that I don't want anything like that to happen. Said Tawa, squeezing her eyes shut as she shook her head, not wanting to see the nightmare again in her mind. Before she opened her eyes in shock when she felt Setsuna wrapping her arms around her. It's okay. I'm sure it was nothing, you're obviously just stressed and worried. And you have every right to be, you've known Naruto longer than Moroha and after what happened with the Bakeneko it makes sense your worries would manifest themselves in some way. That's all it is, just concern at losing someone you care for. Setsuna said before pulling back and putting her hands on Tawa's shoulders. You shouldn't let yourself be concerned about any terrible dreams, as they won't come true. If you're truly worried about something bad happening to Naruto, then use that to train harder, grow stronger, that way should anything happen you'll be able to protect him, just like you did against the Bakeneko. Just like he's done to protect you. said Setsuna, with Tawa look at her with wide eyes before smiling and hugging her, making Setsuna tense slightly before awkwardly patting her sister on the back. Thank you, Setsuna. And you're right, I'm sure it was just my mind playing tricks on me, and I will make sure to train harder so nothing bad like the Bakeneko happens again. Tawa said, thankful for her sister's words. I'm sure you will, you can let go now. Setsuna said, not really used to the whole comforting thing or how close she and Tawa currently were, not helped at their state of undress. Right, said Tawa, blushing slightly as she let go, with Setsuna putting some space between them as the twins finished cleaning themselves up. Time skip 1 day asterisk. The next day, Naruto and Moroha revealed they would be going on a job from Jubei to help with his spiritual training. Something Setsuna accepted, though felt some jealousy they'd be going off together. While Tawa became nervous at the idea of Naruto going off on a potentially dangerous job without her. Despite Setsuna's reassurance that nothing bad was going to happen like in her nightmare, Tawa still couldn't shake the feeling that something bad will happen if she wasn't there to help protect Naruto. Even being tempted to follow Naruto and Moroha on their job just to be safe, if it wasn't for Setsuna holding her back as they headed for Jubei's shop. Yo, Mr. Jubei, we're back for another job, one that'll give us a much better reward. Moroha said as she and Naruto entered the shop, with Jubei raising a brow at seeing it's just the two of them. Just the two of you? Questioned Jubei, making Naruto and Moroha nod in response. Yeah, since want to also use this as a chance to improve my spiritual powers and learn to be purify yokai. Replied Naruto, the corpse dealer shrugged at this. Alright, you're lucky since I just got a new bounty delivered this morning. A pair of demons that have been attacking villages, a lot of damage and a lot of bodies being left behind. From what I've heard, one of them can create Tamari handballs that can be thrown with enough force to blow limbs apart with a single touch, and the other seems like anyone they look at is suddenly thrown around by some invisible force. That's about all I have to go off of, that and it seems they only attack at night. Jubei explained, intriguing and confusing the two at the job. Alright, we'll go and take care of these demons in no times. Said Moroha turning to leave. We'll make sure to bring the heads back. Naruto said while following after Moroha. Good luck, you're going to need it. Said Jubei, knowing they're going to need all the help they can get if he's right about the kind of demons they'll be going after. Ha 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 ha. What fun this is. Look at them all run. Said a young woman, smiling eagerly as she conjured Tamari balls in her hands before either throwing or kicking them at the fleeing villagers. The woman had pale skin, bright yellow eyes with cat-like slits and white horizontal slats, and black hair with orange-colored ends along with stylized bangs. With her wearing a pair of long silver earrings and an orange kimono that matched her hair. She had a black haori on top but took them both off when she entered her battle, revealing a small black sarashi that covers her chest and upper abdomen. Her smile only growing bigger and darker whenever one of her balls hit one of the humans, with the impact zone bursting the moment the ball made contact. With some of the humans dying immediately depending on where the ball hit them. While others were on the ground screaming in agony as parts of their bodies had been ripped apart from the balls. Come on, why are you all running away? We just wanna play some more. Try and catch these ones. The woman said, throwing another barrage of Tamari balls, with the humans all scattering to avoid being killed or maimed. But the moment they tried running, some of the humans felt themselves be thrown through the air by an invisible force, sending them back in the path of the Tamari balls. Or the Tamari balls seemed to chase after them, suddenly changing paths and following the humans and tearing through their bodies. As enjoyable as it is to slaughter these humans, don't forget our objective, Susumaru. A young man said beside Susumaru. He was a young man with an average build, pale, gray-tinted skin and very short black hair. While his eyes were kept shut, he had another pair of pale ringed orange eyes on the palms of his hands, which had a red upward pointing arrow marked on each of the irises with sclera of glowing dark green color. While his attire consisted of a plain olive green kimono with a brown obi and a dark gray haori, decorated by a strip of green that ran down his arms from his shoulders to his wrists. He also sported white tabi socks and a pair of brown zori with black straps, along with a koya necklace of large blue pearls. I know that Yahaba, but that doesn't mean we can't have fun and complete our mission. Just watch. Said Susumaru before creating two Tamari balls in her hands. Before the female demon then began spinning around, rapidly throwing Tamari balls all around her that tore through buildings and villagers alike. With the eyes on Yahaba's hands blinking as he redirected any balls that were coming towards him, sending them either at the buildings or the remaining villagers. Come Come out, wherever you are. We know you're here. Susumaru said in a sing-song tone while spinning around and throwing her balls. We know you abominations are hiding here. Your very existence is already an insult to all true demons, but now you're stooping so low as to hide among humans. It's disgusting. Sneered Yahaba, feeling disgust that their targets would be hiding among humans. Who's hiding, bastards? Decapitating airwaves. Someone shouted, before one of the buildings exploded open from a blast of airwaves heading straight for Yahaba and Susumaru. Only for the two demons to jump out of the way of the blast, before they heard the sound of numerous bells ringing through the air. With the sound disorienting them, making their vision begin blurring as they began seeing doubles of their surroundings. Perhaps you two should have considered hiding from us, said another person from behind that duo, with them soon hearing a loud ringing in their ears further disorienting them. Before Yahaba grunted in pain when something heavy slammed into his back, sending him crashing into Susumaru as they were both sent towards the ground. Though they recovered quickly enough, they stumbled slightly as they stood, still feeling their heads ringing. That wasn't very fun, not fun at all, Susumaru said, holding her head to try and steady herself. Really? 'Cause it looked pretty fun from where we're standing. A third person said, with Susumaru and Yahaba being to just hear the smirk in their voice. So, the fakes have finally decided to show themselves, good. It saves us the trouble of simply destroying this entire village, said Yahaba, looking up once the ringing in his head subsided, seeing their targets standing in front of them, 2 boys and a girl, all 3 being yokai. The first boy had fair skin, black spiky hair and dark eyes. With him wearing a long beige shirt that went down to his legs with black stripes around his arms and 3 prints of the kanji for death going down the front, snake-patterned pants and black sandals, as well as a snake-patterned scarf. The second boy had bandages wrapped around his entire head, leaving just his left eye exposed along with a pair of horns sprouting from his forehead. He also had claws and a long, metallic-looking tail with several holes in it and a large club-like head at the end. While his attire consisted of a large poncho with long sleeves which were pulled up showing what looked like large metal bracers on his arms with holes in them like his tail, a snake-patterned scarf like his teammate which also had a straw raincoat protruding from the back of it, snake-patterned pants that were rolled up exposing the same bracers on his legs as his arms and black sandals. And the girl had fair skin, incredibly long black hair that nearly reached her calves with a violet ribbon near the end keeping it tied together and dark black eyes. With her wearing a pale green vest, snake-patterned pants with a matching skirt over them along with a snake-patterned scarf like her teammates, and black sandals. The girl also had numerous needles seemingly growing out of her arms, with a few having bells attached to them. You 3, you're vassals of the White Snake Clan, Dosu Kinyuta, Zaku Abumi and Kinsuchi. You're also 3 of the insulting creatures that dare call yourselves yokai. Yahaba said, looking at the trio in disgust, knowing they aren't true yokai or demons, only artificial ones created by the leader of the White Snake Clan. I'd say we're better than yokai, new and improved ones that'll crush everyone that stands against the White Snake Clan, said Zaku with a wicked smirk. Ah, does that mean we can't play? Too bad, I was hoping we could have some fun before killing you 3. Susumaru said, smiling darkly while creating 2 tamari balls. Yes, quite a shame. You 3 should have simply crawled under a rock to save your pathetic lives. Instead, we'll kill you in the name of Muzan-sama, the one who shall rule over these lands, declared Yahaba while aiming his hands at the trio. No, there's only person who'll rule and it will be Orochimaru-sama, Kin said before swinging her arms at the demons, shooting out a barrage of needles at them. With the barrage including needles with bells attached to them, which rang as they flew through the air, causing Yahaba and Susumaru to stumble slightly as their vision blurred from the sound. I don't like this game, let's try playing mine, said Susumaru as she threw her balls at needles, shattering them to pieces, with her throwing even more to destroy the bells while the balls continued towards the artificial yokai. Oh please. Like your toys can do anything to us. Decapitating airwaves, Zaku said as he aimed his hands at the balls, showing the tubes in his palms, firing a blast of airwaves that ripped the balls apart. Only for Zaku to suddenly find himself thrown straight up into the air by one of Yahaba's Kokatsu arrows, with Kinsun following him as she was hit with one as well. While Dosu managed to jump out of the way in time, not knowing what launched his teammates up, only that it seemed to come from Yahaba's hands. Try destroying my toys now, Susumaru said, creating a tamari ball which she kicked right at Zaku. Ha! Thanks to the power from Orochimaru-sama, you'll never touch me. Decapitating airwaves. Zaku said while holding his arms out just as his shirt was ripped apart from multiple airwaves, revealing tubes embedded along the rest of his arms, his chest and his abdomen. With all of them releasing airwaves that ripped the ball apart and continued traveling towards Yahaba and Susumaru, forcing them to get out of the way to avoid being hit as well. But as they moved, they covered their ears when Dosu rushed past them. With every step he took causing the bracers on his legs to emit sound waves through the air. As he ran past them, Dosu swung his arms right next to the demons' heads, making it feel like their heads were going to explode from how much they were ringing. Orochimaru-sama gave me my own gift. Every step I take, every movement of my arms, I can release sound waves that directly target your inner hearing, making it impossible for you to even stand still. And that's not all I can do, said Dosu before spinning around and swinging his tail as he did so, which released more sound waves through the air. Before the artificial yokai slammed his tail into the ground, sending the vibrations through the ground towards Yahaba and Susumaru. Knocking them off balance as they fell to their hands and knees, feeling like they were going to throw up any moment from the pounding in their heads. Yuaararr, all, so, annoying. Yahaba said through gritted teeth, lifting his hand enough for his eye to look at Dosu, creating one of his Kokatsu arrows that sent him crashing into a building. Not stopping there, Yahaba aimed his other hand at the building, having one of his Kokatsu arrows drop down on the roof, bringing the entire thing crashing down on top of Dosu. I really hate this game, now, muttered Susumaru as they began standing up, now that the shaking has stopped. Then you'll really hate this one. Let's see how many needles I can hit you with before you stay down. Kin said while swinging her arms at the duo, shooting out dozens of needles at them. No, I wanna play my game. Susumaru said before creating two Tamari balls and launched them straight at Kin, tearing through her needles. The Ravenette's eyes widened at the sight of the balls speeding towards her, before she quickly jumped out of the way. Only to scream in agony when one of the balls changed course and ripping right through her arm. No more playing, it's time you abominations died, said Yahaba while he sent the other Tamari rushing towards Zaku. I couldn't agree more. Time for you to see who's really superior. Extreme decapitating airwaves, shouted Zaku, emitting a high-pressured mix of airwaves and sound waves from the tubes in his body. Blinding everyone for a moment as the blast traveled through the air, carving up the ground as it rushed towards Yahaba and Susumaru, reducing everything it touched to dust. The sight of the attack made the duo quickly get out of the way, only for the ground to begin shaking underneath them. There's no escape for you two, Dosu said as he blasted the debris off of him with his gauntlets, showing his bandages had been ripped, showing his pale white right eye and his scarred flesh which seemed to be centered around his eye and extending across his body. Before he slammed his tail into the ground again, releasing sound waves that knocked Yahaba and Susumaru off balance, leaving them unable to get out of the way of Zaku's blast as it crashed right into them. Ha 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 ha. Yes. I turned them into nothing, but dust. Zaku laughed when the airwaves and sound waves faded, revealing nothing left of Yahaba and Susumaru. You bastard. I was going to kill them. Look at what that bitch did to my arm, said Kin, glaring at Zaku while holding what was left of her right arm. Calm down, Kin, what matters is they're dead now. Orochimaru-sama will be able to give you an A, Dosu said, only to stop as his eyes widened when he heard something whistling through the air. Zaku. Behind Yo, yelled Dosu upon noticing something heading straight for Zaku, only to be too late when a Tamari ball smashed straight through Zaku's chest. Wah, Zaku muttered as blood dripped out of his mouth, looking down at the large hole in his chest in shock before he collapsed to the ground. You know the problem with attacks that leave nothing behind? Yahaba asked rhetorically while pointing his hands at Dosu and Kin, conjuring his Kokatsu arrows that launched them up into the air before they could react. You can never be sure you actually killed someone, if you don't see the body, said Yahaba, having used his Kokatsu arrows on himself and Susumaru, getting them out of the way at the last second. Now, it's time to have some fun again, Susumaru said wickedly, creating a Tamari ball which began spinning around in her hand, before tossing it up and kicking it straight towards Kin. With the spinning Tamari cutting through the air until crashed into the Ravenette, hitting Kin with enough force to rip her body in half at the waist with both halves falling to the ground. Turning their attention to Dosu, Yahaba had his Kokatsu arrows throw him higher and higher into the air, while Susumaru's grin grew even bigger as she created two balls. It's even better when we use our powers together. We can show what we can really do. said Susumaru, throwing the balls into the air before creating two more which she threw as well, making a final fifth one that joined the others. But rather than throw the tamari right at Dosu, Susumaru threw them so they were around the artificial yokai, with Yahaba aiming his hands at them. Making multiple kokutsu arrows, Yahaba directed the tamari towards Dosu, having them blast right through his arms, legs and tail. Much to Dosu's agony at the loss of all his limbs. Take this message with you to the underworld, abomination. The only one who has the right to rule these lands, is Muzan-sama. Stated Yahaba before creating one last kokutsu arrow, sending Dosu crashing into the ground. Shattering what was left of his body as blood began pooling out underneath him. Yay! That was much more fun than going after the humans. Muzan-sama will be so happy. Susumaru cheered, eager to inform their master at their success. Yes, I suppose this was rather entertaining. But we aren't done yet, there's still time before the sun comes up and we haven't dealt with all of the survivors. Yahaba said, wanting to make sure they killed everyone here. Then it just means we'll get to have even more fun. Said Susumaru as she created two tamari balls, happy that the fun isn't over just yet. Timeskip 1 day asterisk. With Tawa and Setsuna. After waking up and getting ready, Tawa and Setsuna had continued their training, working on improving their new unarmed attacks along with developing others they thought of. Though Tawa couldn't stop her mind from drifting towards Naruto, unable to help but worry if something will happen on his and Moroha's mission. With her worry only growing when her thoughts then turned back to her nightmare, what that dragon had said. Let him go. What an intoxicating innocence you have, the boy has been mine since the day he was born. It is by my will he exists at all, and it's through him my resurrection shall be fulfilled. I bore the humiliation of mixing my blood with that of a human, all for this moment. When my descendant could fulfill his purpose. The silverette couldn't help but shake at remembering the dragon's words, how assured and confident it sounded, as if it's already been decided that was Naruto's only purpose. That he only existed just to be used as some vessel to revive that dragon. I can't, I won't let that happen. I won't. Tawa thought while shaking her head, refusing to lose her best friend or let him be used by anyone. Tawa, said Setsuna, putting a hand on her twin's shoulder, pulling Tawa from her thoughts as she looked at the demon slayer. You're still worried, aren't you? Setsuna stated, having noticed how she suddenly stopped and the way she was acting. Yes. I just can't help but be worried, that something is going to happen to Naruto. And then the nightmare, what that dragon said. It didn't just feel like a trick my mind was playing on me, it felt too real for that. Said Tawa, making Setsuna sigh at her words. Tawa, I swear that it was just a nightmare and nothing more. There's no possible way for you to somehow have a dream of Naruto's yokai ancestor, it could have easily been something else entirely. You likely only saw a dragon because that's what you'd see as the most dangerous creature. That's all it was, you only imagining the worst happening to Naruto and nothing more. Everything will be fine, said Setsuna, only for Tawa to shake her head. You don't know that. The first thing that happened when we got the feudal era is have to fight one of Korinmaru's followers, then having to fight a Bakeneko that nearly killed Naruto. And they weren't even the strongest nor most dangerous yokai around. It just doesn't feel like a normal nightmare. I don't know how or why, but I know something terrible is going to happen and I need to make sure it doesn't. And I can't do that if I'm here and Naruto is off on a mission. Tawa said, with the Ravenet only able to sigh again. Well, even if you really feel that way, it's too late to regret not going with Moroha and Naruto when you had the chance. Setsuna stated, while Tawa glared at her. You're the one that held me back from going with them in the first place. Retorted Tawa, with Setsuna not reacting to her words. And if you were really serious about wanting to go and make sure Naruto is safe, why didn't you try harder to go? Instead you just accepted that I stopped you and there was nothing you could have done, rather than try harder. Said Setsuna while crossing her arms, which made Tawa clench her fists tightly. I know. Tawa snapped, only to frown and look down at her behavior. I'm sorry. Said Tawa, not wanting to take her annoyance out on Setsuna, knowing she's only trying to help her. Don't worry about it. But perhaps it'd be better to end the training early for today, so that you can try relaxing. Setsuna said, making the older Hanyo sigh but nod in agreement as they headed back to the village. It didn't take long before the twins arrived back at the village, with them soon spotting Kohaku, Hisui and Kaide, all of them seeming to be discussing something. This made Tawa and Setsuna look at each other curiously before moving closer to hear what they were saying. This does seem most unusual. You're sure the yokai hadn't been looking for something? Kaide asked while looking at Hisui, who nodded in response. I'm positive. When we got to the town, we saw the yokai fighting each other. We made sure to get everyone to safety, but it didn't even seem like the yokai cared about attacking us or the villagers, they only kept fighting each other. By the time everyone was evacuated, we started clearing the remaining yokai. Replied Hisui, making the twins frown at hearing this as they approached the three. What's this about yokai fighting each other? Setsuna asked, getting their attention. Ah, Tawa, Setsuna. I thought you two were out training. Said Kohaku, not expecting to see them back so soon. We decided to take a break. But what do you mean there were yokai fighting each other? Questioned Tawa while looking between them. It's just like you heard. Me and some of the other demon slayers returned from a mission to deal with some yokai that had been attacking a town, but when we arrived the yokai seemed to be fighting each other more than attacking anyone else. I don't even think they noticed or cared when we arrived and began evacuating the people. Hisui said, confusing Tawa and Setsuna, before the latter frowned in remembrance. Weren't there other missions like that, Kohaku? Before we went after Moroha and Mistress Three Eyes, there were other missions the demon slayers were sent on involving yokai fighting each other, with some villages being caught in the middle of it. Said Setsuna, with Kohaku nodding at this. That's right. We didn't think much of it at the time since it's not uncommon for yokai to fight amongst themselves, but that's usually over grudges or something both sides want. Said Kohaku, knowing that yokai are known to fight each other occasionally. Indeed. However, from what they've told me, this seems different than previous battles between yokai. They aren't simply attacking out of anger or seeking something, instead they're fighting until one side is completely eliminated or have been forced into submission. Kaide said, which only made the twins frown, with Tawa also feeling concerned. That doesn't sound like they're just fighting, it sounds like they're at war with each other. Tawa stated, unsure what to think a war among yokai would be like. If that's the case, then we don't know what they would be at war over, only that whatever it is, it's something that a lot of yokai want to claim for themselves. And with the way things are going right now, then we can likely expect some ancient yokai clans to be returning. Kohaku said, sighing at the kind of danger that would be unleashed from those kind of yokai coming out of the shadows. Any idea what we should be prepared for? Setsuna asked, wanting to know what to expect should they encounter more yokai fighting each other while out on missions. We aren't sure of any specific clans that might be rising up. But I can think of one, the White Snake Clan. Replied Kohaku, with Kaide frowning gravely at hearing the name. The White Snake Clan? Tawa asked, wondering what that one was like. The White Snake Clan is a clan of powerful and dangerous snake yokai, being directly descended from the Yamata no Orochi. Kaide revealed, much to the Silverette's shock. The Yamata no Orochi. The same one that was defeated by the god, Susanoo. Said Tawa, not expecting to learn a creature like that had been real as well, on top of everything else. The same, and even then Susanoo-sama could only kill it while it was drunk, so it wasn't something to be trifled with. And all those descended from it are the same, being far more dangerous than the average yokai. So, I want all of you to make sure to watch yourselves while on missions, and make sure to tell Naruto and Moroha when they get back. We'll all need to be more careful, moving forward. Kohaku said while looking at Tawa, Setsuna and Hisui seriously, with all three nodding in response. Though the twins also couldn't help but feel worried at the new threats that could rising up, with Naruto and Moroha out there right now with no idea. Making them hope that nothing bad happens on their mission and they make it back safely. With Naruto and Moroha. Meanwhile, Naruto and Moroha had followed the directions Jubei had given them to where the two demons had been last seen. Only stopping for a short break and nap at night, before they continued on their way. Do you smell that? Moroha asked while sniffing the air as they walked, with the whiskered blonde doing the same to try and see what she smelled. Is it, yokai? Said Naruto, being able to catch a strange scent beyond the smell of nature around them, while the female Shihanyo grinned at him. Yep. You're starting to get the hang of sniffing them out, and this means we're getting close if we can smell yokai. Said Moroha, making Naruto nod as they began walking faster to see if they could catch their targets, if they are close by. Though it wasn't long before they saw what looked like the remains of a village, with the two Shihanyo running faster to get a closer look. But once they arrived, they saw everything was in ruins with bodies that looked like they had been ripped apart by something scattered across the ground. The sight making them frown sadly and curse at seeing the aftermath of their target's attack. Let's see if we can find any survivors. Naruto said, wanting to see if anyone managed to escape or hide themselves, with Moroha nodded in agreement as they began searching through the debris and destroyed buildings. Moving around the destroyed village, the two looked inside the destroyed buildings trying to find anyone that could be hiding in them. Before they started checking outside among the bodies, the ones that were either still or mostly intact, only to find everyone dead. With them even checking around the village in the forest to see if anyone had gotten away and hid themselves nearby, but they couldn't find anyone. Did you find anyone, Moroha? Questioned Naruto after he checked everywhere he could before finding Moroha near 3 bodies, with the bounty hunter shaking her head. It looks like those that attacked were thorough in making sure everyone was dead before leaving. But look at these 3. Moroha said, motioning to the bodies, making Naruto look at them. Frowning as he looked at them, seeing 2 guys and a girl, all of them with inhuman feature. With the girl having needles emerging from her remaining arm, one of the guys having what looked like metal tubes in his arms and abdomen as well as a few around the giant hole in his chest. And the third one had horns, along with having lost what looked like a tail. Yokai. Naruto stated as Moroha nodded in response while frowning in confusion. Yeah, and their scent shows they only died recently, I'd say last night at the longest. And from the look of their injuries, I'd say the ones we're after are responsible, which means we're getting close. Said Moroha while looking at the bodies in confusion. But, said Naruto before trailing off, feeling like there's more she wanted to say. But, there's something strange about their scent. They don't smell like normal yokai, they smell human too. And not like us or Tawa and Setsuna. While Hanyos smell like yokai and humans too, their scent is more blended together. But these 3, I don't know, the yokai scent doesn't really smell natural on them, like it's not their own. Moroha explained, confusing the male Shihanyo as he looked at the bodies. Are they like humans that were turned into yokai then? Naruto asked, making Moroha shrug in response. I don't know. But they're still yokai, which means they can be turned in for bounties. Said Moroha before drawing her sword and cutting off their heads, not intending to pass up on free bounties to collect. You sure that's a good idea? The last time you took credit for bounties you didn't kill yourself, we had to deal with Tokatsu and his son coming back for revenge. Said Naruto, only for the Ravenet to wave it off. Relax, Tokatsu was one of the Shikyo and had someone that wanted to bring him back. I doubt these 3 have the same kind of status and influence he did. Besides, this time I'm taking the heads. Moroha replied, making Naruto sigh, but he couldn't argue as she had a point. Though Moroha then looked at Naruto in confusion when he began going around and gathering the rest of the bodies, laying them all in a line together. Naruto, what are you doing? Questioned Moroha, wondering why he's gathering the bodies. These people didn't ask or deserve to be attacked by yokai, let alone be caught in the middle of a fight between them. The least we can do is make sure they get a proper burial. Naruto said, wanting to make sure the villagers got a proper burial rather than just be left out to rot, something that caught Moroha off guard. Are you sure about that? I don't think we really have time to waste if we want to catch up to our targets. Said Moroha, not wanting to stay here any longer and risk their targets getting away. Then go on ahead, if you want, but I'm not leaving until everyone has been buried. Said Naruto, having no intention of leaving or stopping until he was done. We could always come back once we're done and then bury them. Moroha offered, being willing to help him bury the villagers after dealing with their targets. By the time we found them and killed them, who knows what could happen. Animals could show up and start eating the bodies or birds would begin picking at them. And the sooner they're buried, the less likely they'll spread any disease from being left out in the open like this. Naruto said, setting another body down before looking at Moroha. You can either start helping or go ahead after the demons, Moroha. But I'm not leaving until everyone's been buried. Said Naruto, making the female Shihanyo sigh at how adamant he was about burying the villagers. Fine, I'll help, at least it'll go faster with 2 of us working together. But if this ends up making us lose track of our targets, I'm blaming you. Said Moroha as she began helping gathering the bodies and putting them together. I'll accept that, and thanks. Naruto replied while smiling at the Ravenet, which she returned before they got to work. Later. It took some time for them to gather all the bodies, including the parts that had been removed, but Naruto and Moroha had finished gathering them all together. Before they worked on digging graves for all of them and then burying the villagers once they were placed in the ground. Finishing everything just as the sun was starting to set, with them on their knees saying a little prayer to the fresh graves. I didn't take you for the religious type. Moroha stated while glancing at the Uzumaki, not expecting him to start praying with her once they were done. I'm not, I'm more spiritual if anything. I don't really care for religion, but the more spiritual aspect of things. Deities, demons, spirits, the afterlife, anything about the supernatural I always found interesting. Then finding out I'm descended from a demon and Tawa is a Hanyo, it was honestly a dream come true to learn that and then getting the chance to go to the feudal era. What's better is that I got to meet you and Setsuna, too. Said Naruto while smiling at Moroha, making the female Shihanyo become flustered at his words before she punched him in the arm. Mo moron. Muttered Moroha with a blush, before she covered it up and smirked teasingly at him. Does that mean you were only interested in me because I'm part yokai? You didn't find anything else about me that you liked? Moroha asked teasingly. I didn't say that. There's a lot about you I like, Moroha. You being a Shihanyo is really just a bonus. Naruto said, which only made her smirk grow as she leaned in closer to him. Oh really? And just what about me do you like? Unless you want me to share what I like about you. Said Moroha, with the male Shihanyo gulping at how close she was leaning in. Before their eyes widened when they suddenly felt something coming at them, forcing the Shihanyo to quickly jump out of the way. Doing so just in time as a Tamari ball came flying at them, which would have smashed right through heads if they hadn't moved. Though they didn't have time to relax as they saw more Tamari balls coming at them, with Naruto and Moroha moving out of the way again. Only to be shocked when the balls suddenly changed course and continued chasing after them. Bala. Naruto said, thrusting his fists forward, launching several balls at the balls and destroying them before they got close. Okay. This isn't fair, having these things chase after us. Crimson Dragon Wave. Said Moroha, drawing her sword and swinging it before releasing a red dragon at the Tamari balls chasing her, blowing them apart just in time. Hey! Wherever the hell you're hiding, why don't you demons come out? We know what you can do, so we know you're here somewhere. Moroha yelled as she and Naruto looked around for where their attackers were hiding. Okay, then we can play even more. Said Susumaru as she and Yahaba appeared from one of the ruined buildings, with the female demon creating 2 more Tamari balls in her hands. Let's see you try and stop these ones. Susumaru said before throwing both balls at Naruto and Moroha. Getting ready to destroy the balls again, only to see Yahaba hold his hands out revealing the eyes on his palms before the Tamaris suddenly changed course. Curving around the Shihanyo and coming at them from behind, forcing them to turn around. Spirit Gun. Naruto said, shooting 2 spirit gun blasts that destroyed the balls. Behind you. Blades of blood. Said Moroha, digging her claws into her hand and swinging them, releasing crescent-shaped blood blades, stopping 2 more Tamaris Susumaru threw at them. Yay! You two are much more fun to play with than those other yokai we had to deal with. Let's play some more. Said Susumaru before she began creating multiple Tamari balls and threw them at the whiskered blonde and Ravenet. You wanna play? Then let's play. Getsuga Tensho. Naruto said, drawing one of his swords and swinging it at the Tamaris, only for Yahaba to redirect them up into the air and then back down towards the Shihanyo. Okay, that's a really annoying power. Iron Reaver Soul Stealer. Moroha said before swiping her claws through the air, launching energy claws up at the balls with Yahaba redirecting them again. Perhaps you two simply aren't fast enough to react. Yahaba said tauntingly, much to Naruto's and Moroha's annoyance. Then let's see how fast you can react. Bala. Said Naruto, thrusting his fist at Susumaru and Yahaba, firing a blast of Raryoku at them. Ooh, so we're playing this now. Okay. Susumaru said, creating another Tamari and threw it at the Bala, with both colliding together and exploding. Only for Naruto to keep thrusting his fists and firing more ballas at the demons, with Susumaru creating more Tamaris which she threw at them. Now try saving your stupid toys. Heavenly Arrow Barrage. Moroha said, taking the chance to fire an arrow at the Tamaris Yahaba was manipulating, with the arrow splitting into multiple ones aimed at the balls. Oh please. Yahaba scoffed as he changed the course of the balls again, saving them from being destroyed, before having them home in on Naruto while he was firing ballas. Crimson Dragon Wave. Said Moroha after getting in front of Naruto and swinging her sword, releasing a red dragon that charged towards Yahaba and Susumaru, ripping through the Tamaris the latter was throwing, forcing both demons to get out of the way. My turn now. Spirit Shotgun. Naruto said, focusing Raryoku into his fist before throwing it forward, shooting out multiple projectiles up at the remaining Tamari balls, blasting through each one of them until they were all destroyed. Yay! That was really fun, you were able to destroy all my Tamaris. Susumaru cheered, excited at how they took out her balls before Naruto and Moroha pointed their swords at them. We aren't here to play any games. Why did you attack this village? Why are you going around attacking other villages too? Demanded Naruto, wanting to know what their goal was in attacking villages and killing everyone. It is the will of our lord, Muzan Kibutsuji, an A-class yokai that will soon be reaching the rank of S-class. And soon enough, he will be an upper S-class apparition to become the most powerful yokai in the world. As well as the one who will rule these lands. Yahaba revealed, making the Shihanyo be put on the guard at this. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Moroha demanded, having never heard of this Muzan guy before or anyone trying to conquer the land. It's because with the death of the Inu no Daiokai, the western lands no longer have a ruler. You can blame Sesshomaru for that, he renounced his title to rule these lands and now there are those that seek to claim them for themselves. Yokai everywhere have been battling for it, even foreign demons and factions seek to claim the land of the Inu no Taisho for themselves. Explained Yahaba, shocking Naruto and Moroha at learning yokai have been fighting each other to claim the western lands. That's right. And Muzan-sama is going to be the one that claims them before anyone else. That's why he sent us out, eliminating all human settlements and any other yokai that try getting in our way. It gets even more fun when we find anyone that shows up, after we're finished in one spot. Giving us more time to play. Susumaru said with Naruto and Moroha scowling at her words, not liking how they'd stick around just on the chance they could kill more people. Well, I hate to disappoint, but playtime is over. Said Naruto, refusing to let them kill anyone else. Yeah, cause we won't be so easy to kill. But don't worry, if we ever run into your boss, we'll be sure to send him to join you. Moroha said with a smirk, much to Yahaba's and Susumaru's anger. You half-breeds dare believe that you could hope to stand a chance against Muzan-sama. You will regret such insolence. Yahaba said, angered that the female Shihanyo dared to believe they'd even be challenged to Muzan. It's time for the real fun to begin. Said Susumaru, smiling eagerly as she grew 4 more arms long with her body growing more muscular, surprising Naruto and Moroha at the sudden transformation. Only to tense when Susumaru created 6 Tamari balls in her hands and launched them at the Shihanyo, with them being thrown much harder and faster than the previous ones. Leaving Naruto and Moroha barely any time to dodge them. With Moroha quickly swinging her sword, deflecting one that would have ripped through her chest, moved in time as one flew past his head. Haven't you learned dodging is useless? Said Yahaba, holding his hands out, causing the Tamaris to be redirected right back at the Shihanyos. Have you learned you'll have to try harder to hit us? Blades of blood. Moroha said, releasing blades of blood at the Tamaris, with Yahaba redirecting them again. There's still more where that came from. Susumaru said, creating 6 more balls she launched up into the air with Yahaba directing them back down. I guess you haven't learned then. Spirit shotgun. Naruto said, gathering Raryoku in his fist before thrusting it forward, shooting out multiple projectiles at the Tamaris. The same tricks won't work again. Yahaba stated as his Tokatsu arrows moved the balls out of the way, before they could be destroyed. Before he then began directing them to spin around Naruto and Moroha, forcing them apart as the balls were speeding around them. With the Shihanyo doing their best to dodge or deflect them, only for it to get harder as more balls were thrown at them. These things really hit hard. Moroha thought while gritting her teeth as she blocked a Tamari with her sword, feeling her arms vibrate from the impact, before she managed to deflect it into another ball, destroying them both. Bala. Said Naruto, thrusting his fists out, shooting multiple blasts at the balls, managing to destroy a few of them before he quickly jumped into the air. Getsuga Tensho. Said Naruto, holding his sword up and bringing it down, unleashing a wave of Raryoku at the remaining Tamaris coming after him. Iron Reaver Soul Stealer. Said Moroha, swinging her hands out, releasing energy claws around her that sliced through the last of the Tamari balls. You're both really fun to play with. But can you handle one with an added spin to it? Susumaru said, creating a single Tamari ball which she began rapidly spinning in her hand, making it go faster and faster until it even began releasing a whistling sound with how fast it was spinning. Try stopping this one, Susumaru exclaimed before throwing the ball straight at Naruto, with the Uzumaki bringing his sword up and blocking it. Though the moment the ball hit his sword, Naruto grit his teeth at the power behind it, with the rapid spinning only adding to the force, making it difficult for him to hold it back as he kept adjusting his sword to avoid the ball moving past it. Until the whiskered blonde succeeded in pushing it aside, sending the Temari flying off behind him. Only for Yahaba to stop it with his Kokatsu arrows, sending the ball up into the air and back down towards Naruto's back, changing the rotation of its spinning as he did so. Naruto, behind you. Crimson draw, Moroha said, drawing her sword and held it up. No. You can't interfere when others are having fun, said Susumaru, creating 3 more Temaris and launched them at Moroha, stopping the Ravenet from helping Naruto. Seeing the Temaris coming at her, Moroha quickly jumped back and deflected them with her blade, only for Yahaba to bring them all back at her. While Naruto turned, raising his sword and blocked the spinning Temari again, only to be thrown off balance when it suddenly was launched off to the side. With it then coming right back at him, the Uzumaki seeing how it seemed like it was constantly struck by invisible forces, causing it to begin rapidly spinning in different directions and moving even faster towards him. Naruto only had a moment to raise his sword to block it, gritting his teeth as he felt it begin pushing him back while grinding against his sword, with it only getting worse when he saw it changing the direction it was spinning in. I need to do something fast, thought Naruto as he shakily reached behind him and grabbed his other sword to help block the ball, managing to hold it back more easily with both blades. But the longer he tried blocking it, Naruto saw the ball grinding against his swords and began chipping away at them, knowing he couldn't block it forever before his swords broke. Twin Getsuga, Tensho. Naruto said through gritted teeth, channeling Raryoku through his swords before slashing them diagonally, succeeding in knocking the Temari back before releasing 2 blue and white energy waves that obliterated it. Hey, glad you were able to handle that, sorry I was held back, said Moroha, jumping beside Naruto after dealing with the other Temaris thrown at her. Glad to see you handled yours. But at this rate, we're either going to tire ourselves out or they'll get lucky and hit us with one of those balls, said Naruto, with Moroha nodding in agreement as they looked at the 2 demons warily. Yeah, I think if we want to take them out, we need to separate them. I'll deal with the eye guy if you deal with ball girl, Moroha said, figuring he'd have an easier time defeating Susumaru than Yahaba. Works for me, Naruto replied before looking at Susumaru. Hey, you like playing games? Then here's a new one, tag you're it. Spirit gun, said Naruto, firing a blast at the Temari demon. A new game. Sounds fun, Susumaru said before throwing a Temari that collided against the spirit gun, only to see Naruto running away. Then catch me if you can, Naruto said, making Susumaru grin eagerly before chasing after him. Wait, Susumaru, Yahaba said, seeing what the Shihanyo were doing, before cursing when she didn't listen and went after the Uzumaki. Looks like it's just you and me, now. Let's see how good you are without your friend and her toys. Iron Reaver Soul Stealer, Moroha said, swinging her hand at Yahaba, unleashing her energy claws at him which the arrow demon jumped out of the way of. I don't need help to kill a half-breed, like you, retorted Yahaba before he took off running into the forest, with Moroha smirking at this. Says the guy currently running away. Blades of blood, said Moroha, shooting a barrage of blood blades after Yahaba as she went after him. Before her blades could hit him though, Yahaba aimed one of his hand at some debris and threw it into the path of them, causing her attack to hit the debris instead. Okay, try blocking this. Heavenly Arrow Barrage, Moroha said, grabbing her bow and knocking an arrow, charging it full of Raryoku before firing it up into the air above Yahaba. Once the arrow reached its peak, it split into a barrage of arrows that rained down onto Yahaba, only for him to manipulate more debris to block the arrow before they could reach him. I said it before, that power is so annoying, whoa, said Moroha, only to cry out when she found herself propelled into the air by an unseen force before grunting in pain when the same force sent her crashing into the ground. It's that same power I'll be using to kill you, half-breed, Yahaba said with a smirk, conjuring another Kokatsu arrow that sent Moroha crashing into a tree. We'll see about that. Iron Reaver Soul Saint, Moroha said, charging her claws with Yoki, but before she could launch her attack she was thrown up into the air again. Still so slow, taunted Yahaba as he had his arrows begin throwing Moroha around the air, leaving her unable to focus long enough to attack. Come on. He can't just be grabbing me and throwing me around somehow. I know he seems to use the eyes on his hands for his attacks, aiming them at whatever he's targeting. So if I deal with those, then he won't be able to do whatever the hell he's doing, but I can't do that if I can't get close. Moroha thought while trying to focus, even as she was being thrown around through the air. Only for the bounty hunter to frown and sniff the air, catching the scent of yoki all around her before sensing bursts of it appearing before they hit her. With Moroha's eyes widening at realizing that must be whatever Yahaba's using to hit her with. I might not be able to see them, but I can sense them. And if they're made out of yoki, then let's see how they handle my sacred arrows. Thought Moroha, waiting for the right moment to fire an arrow. Time to die. Yahaba yelled once he saw Moroha was high enough in the air and moving fast enough, before bringing a Tokatsu arrow down on top of her. Got you. Sacred arrow. Moroha said before firing an arrow right up at her, smirking when she saw it collide against and dispel something. What? My Tokatsu arrow. Yahaba yelled in shock at seeing she somehow managed to destroy one of his arrows. My turn now. Sacred arrow. Said Moroha, aiming an arrow at Yahaba now, only to quickly fire it at another Tokatsu arrow when she sensed it appear and dispelled it. Seeing Moroha now descending down towards him, Yahaba began conjuring multiple Tokatsu arrows to knock her away. Only for Moroha to now be prepared and began firing multiple arrows around her, dispelling each arrow that got too close to her. What was that about me being slow? Heavenly arrow barrage. Moroha said, firing an arrow up into the sky with it splitting into multiple arrows that descended down, dispelling all of the Tokatsu arrows around her all at once. Once all the arrows were dispelled, Moroha switched to her Kurakarimaru as she dived down at Yahaba, much to his slowly growing panic. Stay ba, Yahaba said, aiming his hands at her to knock her away. Don't even think about it. Crimson Dragon Wave. Moroha said, swinging her sword, unleashing her red dragon at Yahaba before he could conjure any more arrows. With Yahaba being forced to jump out of the way to avoid being hit by the dragon, only to scream in pain when Moroha landed on the ground and lunged at him. Swinging Kurakarimaru right at his hands, cutting straight through the eyes on them. No. My hands. I can't see without them. Yahaba said, unable to see anything with his eyes now gone. Then it's a good thing this is over. Iron Reaver Soul Stealer. Said Moroha, swinging her claws at him, with the energy blades slicing right through his body and his neck, sending his head flying off. The sight making Moroha grin at seeing how much stronger her Iron Reaver Soul Stealer has gotten, before she picked up Yahaba's head. Awesome. One down, one to go. Let's see if Naruto's handle his or needs some help. Moroha thought before she took off back to where Naruto was fighting Susumaru. With Naruto. Meanwhile, Naruto had soon stopped running once Moroha and Yahaba were out of the sight, before turning to face Susumaru. Only for him to have to get out of the way of a barrage of Tamari balls she threw at him, drawing his swords after they flew by him. No way for you to have those come back at me now. Getsuga Tensho. Naruto said, swinging one of his swords at the demon, unleashing a wave of Raryoku at her. That just makes it more fun. I need to try harder if I wanna get you. Susumaru said with a grin as she threw 3 more Tamaris at the Raryoku wave, only to be surprised when it destroyed her balls and kept coming at her, forcing the Tamari demon to jump out of the way. Too bad for you, I don't have that problem. Bala. Said Naruto, throwing his fists towards Susumaru firing blasts of Raryoku as she began moving around him. Yay. This is way more fun now. Let's see which of us gets hit first. Susumaru said, conjuring 6 Tamaris in her hands and began throwing them at from different sides. This made the whiskered blonde quickly move to avoid being hit, with them now running around launching their attacks to try and hit the other. Until Susumaru jumped high up into the air and created 2 Tamari balls which she began rapidly spinning in her hands. You really liked this one before. Now try handling 2 spinners. Said Susumaru before launching the high-speed spinning balls straight at Naruto. Naruto's eyes widened at the sight of the balls coming at him faster than he'd be able to dodge, making him quickly channel as much Raryoku as he could into his fist. Bala. Naruto said, firing a powerful bala up at the Tamari balls to destroy them, only for him and Susumaru to be surprised when rather than simply being destroyed, they instead burst into particles of light quickly dispelled. Howdy did you, Susumaru said, not expecting to see her Tamaris be dispelled like that, while Naruto looked at his hand in surprise before smirking. I just got the perfect way to finish you off. Purifying Bala. Naruto said, thrusting his fists at Susumaru before firing several blasts of purifying Raryoku, causing the Tamari demon to panic at the sight. And no, this isn't fun anymore, said Susumaru, conjuring several temores she launched at the balas, only for them all to be dispelled by Raryoku. Moving out of the way before the blasts could hit her, Susumaru began conjuring multiple balls and rapidly throwing them at Naruto as hard as she could. While the Uzumaki began running straight at her, gathering purifying Raryoku in his hand. Maybe not for you, but I'm starting to have fun. Purifying shotgun, said Naruto, throwing his fist forward, unleashing dozens of energy projectiles that collided against the temores, dispelling each one they hit much to Susumaru's growing panic. Before she cried out when the purifying projectiles slammed into her, throwing her back and skidding across the ground. Though as she quickly scrambled to get up, Susumaru's eyes widened in panic and fear at seeing Naruto closing the distance between them, aiming a finger right at her. Purifying Spirit Gun, Naruto said before firing a blast of purifying Raryoku directly at Susumaru, blasting her head right off of her body and into the air. With the head flying up before coming down right into the hands of Moroha, making the Ravenet grin at seeing both their targets were now dealt with. Way to go, Naruto. Taking out the second demon and unlocking purifying Raryoku. I'm sure you can already tell it's way more effective against yokai than regular Raryoku, isn't it? Said Moroha, with the whiskered blonde smiling and nodded in agreement. Yeah, it really is. Stated Naruto, knowing before his spirit gun would have just shot through a yokai or wounded them, rather than being strong enough to blow their head off. But now that you've unlocked it, now we need to train you to focus it and use it for more than just taking out yokai. So it looked we'll be spending a lot more quality time together. And just so you know, I might start getting rougher with you during training. Moroha said with a teasing smirk, only for Naruto to return it. I don't mind, I'm sure that's when you'll be really fun. So feel free to be as rough as you like. Naruto replied, making Moroha's smirk grow. Someone sounds eager, maybe for something besides training. Questioned Moroha leaning in closely. Depends on what else we would be doing when we're together. Said Naruto, with the bounty hunter now smiling slyly at him. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? Moroha said before pulling back. But first, let's get back to Mr. Jubei and collect on these bounties. Added Moroha eagerly, excited at being able to collect 5 bounties rather than just 2. Making Naruto laugh lightly but nod in agreement as they began making their way back to Jubei's shop and home. Timeskip 1 day asterisk. After returning to Jubei's shop, Naruto and Moroha turned in the heads of Yahaba, Susumaru and the 3 yokai they found dead in the village. With the Ravenet being annoyed when they didn't get as much as she was hoping for, again, but did at least get more with the additional bounties. Once they had their bounties they returned to Kaide's village to meet up with Tawa and Setsuna, finding the Hanyo twins training together when they arrived. Yo! Tawa, Setsuna, we're back and got more money than we were hoping for. Moroha said while grinning at her cousins, getting Tawa's and Setsuna's attention, with the Silverette immediately looking at Naruto. You're back. Are you alright? Tawa asked, wanting to make sure nothing bad happened. We're both fine, while we had some trouble with the demons we went after, we managed to handle them in the end. Even better I can do this now. Purifying Spirit Gun. Naruto said, shooting a blast of purifying Raryoku at a tree, surprising the twins at seeing how much stronger it is and feeling the more intense Raryoku it use. That's amazing Naruto. Now you'll be able to handle yokai much better. Said Tawa while smiling at him, happy and relieved he had something else to use against yokai now. Indeed, it'll be good that both of you will now be capable of purifying yokai. Setsuna added with a nod. What about you guys? How's your training going? Moroha asked, curious of how their training has been going. This made Tawa and Setsuna look at each other, the Silverette smirking with the Ravenet having a small smirk of her own. Watch this. Sero. Tawa said, aiming 2 fingers at a large boulder before firing a blue beam that blasted straight through the boulder, much to Naruto's amazement. You learned to use the Sero. That's awesome. Naruto said while grinning at the older Hanyo, which Tawa returned. I knew you'd like it, and wait until you see when I learn the other variations of it. Said Tawa, making the Uzumaki eager to see her use the different versions of Sero. I have my own new attack as well. Beast Wave Palm. Said Setsuna before swinging her hand through the air, unleashing a razor-sharp wind wave that sliced through a boulder. Whoa! Nice attack, Setsu. Moroha said, smiling in amazement at the attack. Yeah, that one's really cool too. Said Naruto while smiling at the Demon Slayer, impressed at the attack she made. Thank you, though I'm hoping to create a stronger version of it as well. Setsuna replied, knowing while her beast wave palm is strong, she believed it could be made even stronger. Nice, I'm sure it'll be even better. Naruto said, making Setsuna smile slightly at the praise. So, besides training, did anything else happen while we were gone? Questioned Moroha, causing the twins to suddenly turn serious. Nothing happened here, but we have learned that there's been a lot more yokai activity recently and not the usual kind of them simply attacking people. Instead, it's yokai fighting amongst each other. Setsuna revealed, with Tawa nodding in agreement. Yeah, Kohaku and Kaide told us how there have been yokai that are fighting each other, with them either wiping out the other side or forcing them into submission. Like they seem to be going to war over something, we just don't know what. Added Tawa, only to see Naruto and Moroha frowning in concern. What is it? Tawa asked as she and Setsuna looked at them. We think we know what yokai are fighting over. The two demons we went after, they're working for someone called Muzan Kibutsuji, an A-class yokai that's apparently close to being S-class and intends to take over these lands. Naruto said, shocking the twins at this information. And he's not the only one. There are supposed to be others that have been showing up, all of them wanting to take over grandfather's lands since Sesshomaru renounced his title. Said Moroha, making Tawa and Setsuna frown at the mention of their father. With all of them being concerned at the knowledge of various yokai, and who knows what else, coming here to try and claim the western lands for themselves. While I don't want to give us something else to worry about, if there are so many yokai fighting each other over claiming the Inu no Daiyokai's territory, then who else could be trying to claim it? Said Naruto looking at the girls, worrying them even more at what other factions could be trying to conquer the land. Ogigayatsu Castle. Meanwhile, the Kanrei of Kanto region, Ogigayatsu Hiragi Danjo, his daughter Aiya and his advisor Sokyu stood outside of the former's castle. Before they bowed as several horses rode in through the gates. We are honored to welcome you into our home, the demon king of the seventh heaven. We are at your service, Oda Nobunaga-sama. Said Ogigayatsu while bowing lowly to the lead rider. With the rider being an adult woman with fair, pale skin, long crimson-red hair and matching crimson-red eyes. Her attire consisted of a skin-tight dark black bodysuit with crimson-red trimming decorating it, a black belt with a gold buckle and katana sheathed on her left side, dark red boots that went up to her knees, burgundy red gloves and a long red cape with a high collar and golden ornament on the left side, and held closed by a chain connected to both sides. This is Oda Nobunaga, known as the Demon King of the Sixth Heaven. I thank you for such a gracious welcome, Kanrei Ogigayatsu. Nobunaga said with a smirk, while glancing at Sokyu and mentally scoffed. Only a fool would believe such a pathetic disguise. Thought Nobunaga while grabbing her katana. However, it seems you need to be more careful as to who you allow into your clan. Stated Nobunaga before quickly drawing her sword and slashing at Sokyu, shocking those in the castle at her sudden action. Only for Ogigayatsu and his daughter to be further shocked when Sokyu's headdress was destroyed, revealing a second set of eyes. A yokai. Aiya screamed in panic and horror at seeing he was a yokai. While Sokyu panicked seeing his disguise was ruined before shedding his human form, revealing Yatsum as he prepared to fly, only for someone to grab his leg. Ah. Where do you think you're going? Nobunaga asked as her smirk gained a dark edge, swinging her katana and slicing Yatsum straight down the middle. Ogigayatsu and Aiya looked at the remains in shock and horror, not believing a yokai had managed to infiltrate their home, even worse that no one had noticed. You have my deepest apologies Oda-sama. I swear that I had no idea that Sokyu was a yokai in disguise. Ogigayatsu said while bowing deeply, knowing one wrong move could lead to the destruction of his entire clan if they angered Nobunaga. I'd honestly be surprised if anyone here had known. Monkey. Nobunaga said, waving off the apology, before motioning one of her soldiers forward. With the soldier being a young man with tanned skin, spiky golden blonde hair held up in a fanned-out ponytail and golden eyes. With his attire consisting of an open golden brown vest with brown trimming and a large golden wheel attached to the back while below it was a sword strapped across his lower back, a long tattered red scarf, bandages wrapped around his wrists and waist, red fur wristbands, golden brown pants with a match rope tassel belt, red shin guards with brown trimming and tabi socks with zori sandals. This was Toyotomi Hideyoshi, one of Nobunaga's higher-ranking subordinates. What do you need, Nobunaga-sama? Hideyoshi asked with a grin. Go out and see what you can find, return if you locate anything or anyone worth my attention. Ordered Nobunaga, with Hideyoshi nodding in response. Right. I'll head out immediately and be back before you know it, said Hideyoshi before he rode out of the castle, while Ogigayatsu looking at Nobunaga in wary confusion. Oda-sama, if I may ask, what is it exactly you are planning to do? Questioned Ogigayatsu, only to bow his head when Nobunaga looked at him. You may not be aware, but that all yokai is simply one of many that has been found here. In fact, our territory had become the interest of various supernatural entities in recent years. Nobunaga revealed, much to the shock of Ogigayatsu and Iya, not expecting to hear of supernatural entities being interested in the Kanto region. And I wish to see for myself what is happening, said Nobunaga with a fierce smirk before she suddenly began transforming. It wasn't long before Nobunaga now resembled a teenage girl, with her crimson hair turning night black, while her bodysuit turned into a military uniform with double-button jacket, baggy hakama pants, dark gray armored boots, black gloves and a black military cap with a gold ornament on the front. Jumping off her horse, Nobunaga stabbed her sword into the ground and placed her hands on it while her smirk turned into an eager grin. Yet from what I know already, there's going to be so much fun and action. And I can't wait for it, Nobunaga said, eager to see what supernatural beings would dare to challenge her authority. The end.